This week on NWP, it's an anniversary. What did you get me?
Come in and put your weary feet up. Come in and gently close the door. Our time will leave you intrigued and wanting more. Remove your clothes, listen to those headphones. Take off your pants,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerds Without Pants, episode 180. We cover everything while bearing it all. I am Julian, and I'm joined as always by Justin.
Hello, welcome to Nerds Without Pants, a cooking podcast where we talk about your favorite ingredients one spice at a time. Today's spice, cumin. Julian, you're a professional chef in your own right. What is your experience with cumin, and how has it affected your cooking activities in your day-to-day life?
I mean, I use cumin a lot, usually when I wake up, and then probably before I go to bed on most nights. Wait. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, okay. That sounds right. Because often pronounced as cumin, I could see where you would make that mistake.
Yes.
It's also a much funnier pronunciation. But anyway, how are you? How is everybody? How are we doing?
I mean, you know, it's every week takes more and more out of me, but that's neither here nor there. We are actually joined by a very special guest, Angelo Grant, former co-host of Nerds Without Pants. Angelo, how are you doing?
Good. I'm not that special. Come on.
Yeah, you're special. It's special.
Very special.
It's special to get you back, and we tried to get Patrick as well, because this is if you're listening to this the day it comes out, and if I've busted my ass enough, then this is actually releasing on our 8th anniversary of Nerds Without Pants, which is just crazy to think about that this show has been going on that long. I looked it up, and apparently the 8th anniversary is bronze and pottery. Or in modern, like, I guess there's also like a modern version of this, and that is lace and linens, which neither of those sound interesting to me.
I don't know, man. I mean, I could go for some good curtains. If you would like to send me some curtains, I will set them on fire. So go ahead and do that. That sounds great.
And I'm sure we'll say something about it like towards the end of the show. But yeah, 8 years. Like, thanks for sticking around this long, or however long you've been on, like, been listening to the show. Maybe for the 10-year anniversary, we'll try to get Patrick, Angelo, and Rob for just an all hosts extravaganza, because 8 years is like, it's like a weird anniversary, but, like, you know, 10 years is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how do you have a non-monetized podcast run for 10 years? How does that work?
Let's go with dedication. Let's use that word.
Love of the game.
Yes. And Justin, you know, I mean, you're the regular co-host now, and I do have a special surprise for you for this anniversary episode.
Oh, fantastic! Is it curtains?
No.
Oh,
I hear
really
tell that you love lists.
Okay, that depends. Because the last time this came up, it was not okay. Well, it was fine. Go ahead. What is it?
No. That's just a joke that's not even going to pan out to listeners for quite some time.
Yeah, have fun with that one, listeners. Depending, you may think you want this, but I don't know if you do.
For listeners who don't know, like, because I tweeted this, Justin and I recorded a special, and then it ended up being almost 5 hours long. I've decided to just edit the first hour and then see if people even like it, because I don't know if it's entertaining. I know I enjoyed recording it, but part of that is just because, like, I'm very lonely and it's nice to talk to Justin for a long period of time.
It was a fun time. I remember when you started the idea, you didn't tell me anything going into it, which was fine. And then you revealed your plan, and I was like, oh, this is going to take forever. Unless he has a plan, which he might. And then I was very quickly like, oh no, there is no plan here. This was the plan.
In hindsight, that deer in the headlights look on Justin's face made a lot more sense.
Yeah, I was like, I run a podcast about lists and I don't go over 20. And
Is that what happened?
This one has a lot more than 20. We'll just say that.
Yeah, a lot more. A lot more than 20.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes I go over 20, but not only like by 5 or whatever. But, you know.
But yeah, I think, did we have, I don't think we have any announcements or anything, other than, I'll be releasing like the first hour of that special. And that's the thing is like, people on Twitter were like, no, just release it all in one chunk. And I'm like, no, I don't think you want that.
No,
I really don't think you want that.
I mean, maybe you do, but I don't think you know what you want. I don't know.
Maybe it'll be a thing where like I release it in segments and then like I release the full thing for people who just want to listen to the full thing in one shot, like when it's all done. I don't know. We'll see.
Follow your heart. That's all I can say.
I know, friend of the show, John Golson, when he was doing his comic book podcast, they did this massive series on like every Marvel crossover event. And I think it equated to like 15 hours of podcasting. I mean, it was like many episodes.
Right.
Wow.
But due to listener demand, like the editor actually like released like a full cut of like the whole thing in one shot. Cause there were people who were like, I just want to listen to this all day, you know, and some people want to do that.
I enjoy listening to the like 4 or 5 hour Giant Bomb Deliberation podcast. So
I do as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is that. I don't know. Maybe we're crazy. I don't know.
Maybe. I think our listeners are crazy for enjoying listening to us for as long as they do. But hey,
probably.
We're still here and people are still listening and people are still commenting. So I guess we're doing something right. And to that end, I think it's time for us to take off our pants, relax, and jump on into the stage select. Justin, I'm going to turn things over to you because this is your stage select. So lay it on us.
Right. It is my stage select. And I asked our listeners to share their favorite recipes involving the spice cumin. No, I didn't actually. I wanted to know what people's favorite console launch games were because consoles are coming out soon and there will be launch games. And I was just curious which games of those that people enjoyed the most. And I think they did pretty good. They had a pretty decent turnout, I think. If I remember
I think
right.
so too. And I guess we probably should have clarified last time that it just means games that came out at the launch of a system. It doesn't mean that you had to have played it at the launch. Yeah, you don't have to play
them at launch. Yeah, I should have clarified that, but I didn't even think about it. I didn't either. I guess I just figured people would know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I will start with my bullshit obscure selection. I'll start on a low note so it can't get any worse than this. But I loved a game from the PlayStation 2 launch called Kessen.
A lot of people loved Kessen.
I loved Kessen. It was a fun game. It was a real-time strategy game based in like Japanese history. It was made by Koei, who makes like Samurai Warriors and Dynasty Warriors, like those guys. They actually released strategy.
That and Dynasty Warriors 2 like at the launch, which was crazy that they had 2 launch titles for the same console.
Yes, they did. It was crazy. Whatever reason, I got like really into this game. Like if there had been trophies back then, I would have hit every single one. I did every campaign you could do. I don't know why I enjoyed it. It was basically like all your units were represented by these little like I don't know. They look like the White House or something. They're like little like blue and red like square things. It wasn't visually
like an actual war table.
Yeah, it was like a war table. Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And when they'd collide, then you would it would zoom in on the battle, and like there was a lot of people on the screen. It was to show how many people PlayStation 2 could have on the screen. I'm guessing. I don't know.
I mean, because I played it a little bit, and that's not my type of game. But I was just like, wow, look at this.
Yeah, it was cool, man. Like, yeah, people doing magic, and like there was like a rock paper scissors element to it. Like if you attacked somebody with like bow, I think it was like bow. Foot soldier and cavalry or something like that. depending on what you had, that each one beat the other one or something like that. So you had to kind of like work your way around and do all this stuff. I really enjoyed that game. I had a really good time with it. I learned a lot of dumb things about Japanese history. I don't know what is canon to this day, thanks to Koei. I have no idea what canon Japanese history is. I have no idea. I know Tokugawa won at some point. I know that happened. He was the guy at some point.
I think for all of us gamers, like we have such a weird, gamers and geeks, we have such a weird window into Japanese history because like there's stuff, at least for me, like there's that, and then there's like all the Nobunaga stuff from the Onimusha games, which I know that that Nobunaga didn't come back as a zombie, but like for me that must have happened, and then I watched like all of Rurouni Kenshin, so I'm like, oh right, the Meiji era, blah blah blah. I'm some sort of like expert on this, right?
Yeah, I learned a lot about the Tokugawa people. They were I don't know, they seemed like okay dudes, but I enjoyed like the revisionist run of the game where you could play as the other side that I'm guessing lost. I don't know, because they switched like generals 3 times. It's like you'd win the fight and then it'd be like, well, that guy died and now you're this guy. And you're like, okay, I guess I'm this guy now. I remember like finding out who Yukimura Sanada was and being like, this guy's cool, he has ninjas, and that's why I liked him so much. But man, I played the shit out of that game because I bought a PlayStation 2 not at launch because they were like impossible to find at launch, if I remember correctly. And like, it was like a couple months down the line when they started to finally get caught up or whatever. And that's when I got one. And that was one of the games that I bought for it. I wasn't even like super hyped up for it. It was just like, well, here's a game and it's got Japanese things and it's a strategy game, which I like strategy games. So why not? Yeah. And ended up really liking it. And it's one of those dumb games that I enjoy a lot and still think fondly of. They made like 2 sequels. I don't think I ever played the second one, but I know I played the third one. And the third one was like, it was the same concept, but when like your units met with other units, you had to actually press buttons to do attacks. Like they were combining Dynasty Warriors with it in some weird way. It was strange. But it was interesting. I wish I was
actually really surprised that Kessen didn't keep going because I know that it did really well, but I think Dynasty Warriors did so much better for them. And then I know, I don't play the series, but I know that at some point they started to the Dynasty Tactics where they try to bring in some of the Kessen strategy into the Dynasty Warriors button mash.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done one of those in a while either.
Yeah, no, I don't. The thing about Kessen that you have to remember is that came out around the time when like what's the real-time strategy? StarCraft. God, why could I not think of that? StarCraft was like pretty popular at that time. Like people were playing that. Real-time strategy games were like, they were like a pretty hot commodity at that moment. So that's why people were kind of putting those games out. And that's why we got that. And I enjoyed the shit out of that game for what it was. It wasn't that great, but I enjoyed it. So,
I think to be pretty clear, by and large, console launch games, like especially as history as time goes on, they're okay, right? There's very few like killer apps, right? Like literally the first time that I heard that term was when Halo came out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a handful, and I'm sure we'll talk about them a lot, throughout the episode. But there's only like 4 or 5 like really like killer like instant classic type launch games. Most of them are just, it's a new system, it shows off like what the system can do, gameplay wise and depth. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. And this was kind of one of those games, but like I said, I put in a lot of stupid time into this. There was trophies back then. I would have had the platinum. Like there's no doubt in my mind. I did everything there was to do in that game until I could do it no more. And then finally moved on to whatever else came out. So that's the story of Kessen. Thank you for your time.
PS2 just having a weird launch. Like, I want to say it came out the gate. There were like 3 games for it, and it took a few weeks for other games to start appearing. Maybe I'm getting confused. Yeah, okay. It was
I keep thinking you're right.
Fantavision, and I think The Bouncer, and I think Working Designs had a port of Slipheed, and that was about it. That's all I can remember.
I keep thinking The Bouncer wasn't a
that wasn't
game.
launch.
No.
It was
No, it
like
wasn't
Tekken Tag, Fanavision.
Tekken
right,
Tag.
Tekken Tag.
Yeah, there was a handful others like. But yeah, the PlayStation 2 like launch window is like some weird shit, man.
It
like
is.
For Grace and Oni and Orphan.
I keep thinking
and
Madden was
Freaking
another
Orphan.
one.
Well, yeah, I mean,
One
there's
that
always
was
a Madden.
Look at the graphics on Madden, because I remember, I know that's stupid, but the graphics at that time, like you look at them now, it's hilarious because their eyes are like floating in their head, but it's so awkward and weird. But it looked good for that time. But yeah, that was a good one. All right, who wants to go next? I don't care. I'm not in charge here. I'm not your bosses. You have the power to go next.
Angelo, why don't you go next?
I can do that. All right, so this is my number 3 because it's a bit of a stretch, and I'll explain. It's not a crazy stretch, but I have to explain how a PC can have a launch game. Because that's a weird concept. All right, so
that is a weird concept.
Here's the deal. Windows 95 came out in
1999.
It was in August of 95, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody was really buying it. So later that year, they did a whole promotion with a game, and there was even a video where Bill Gates appeared within the game world and like did a little spiel.
This sounds amazing.
And said, we made this, we worked with the developers of this game to get this. It runs great with Windows 95. You get Windows 95 computers, you can play this game on it. So in my mind, that's like the one weird time a PC had a launch game. Because when a new version of Windows comes out, like I said, it's a stretch.
Yeah.
You can kind of follow the logic here.
Now that you say that, like, there's definitely been like when like a brand new graphics card comes out, like they'll tend to bundle it with like a newer game. They usually like they came out like at the same time to show it off, and so I could almost see that argument there as well, because like that's kind of the generation of PC, right? Is when like a new graphics card comes out and really pushes the paradigm.
And they did bundles and promotions, and they said, this game was designed. We did a whole thing to make sure that this game works with this system. So it was not really a reworking, but they, like I said, they worked with the developers to make sure it worked with Windows 95. It was Doom. Yep. Now you can see now with all that context, like how that works, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, of course, everybody's playing Doom on the old version of Windows and DOS. How are we gonna? They're not gonna like put that away. They're like, no, guys, we got it. Come over here.
That makes sense.
We made it work with this. We worked together with the developers to make sure everything's fine. I think they even did bundles. I'm not 100% on that one.
I would not doubt it. I was going to say, I remember playing Descent on Windows 95.
Yes.
That was the big one I remember. Everyone had Descent, and the other one my cousin had was Siberia. Or Siberia? Yeah.
I think that was like the adventure game?
It was like half adventure game, but like half cockpit shooter. It was the weird.
Game was so jank, but yeah.
It was super. It was terrible. But like at the time, you were like, "Oh, this is kind of cool. This is neat." But it is not a good game. Do not play that game.
In like the first room, there's like a barrel full of acid, and I remember this too because my friend and I like laughed at it, right? Because like you touch it, he pulls his hand away, he's like, ah. And if you make him touch it again, he like bursts into flames, and you get a game over. It's hilarious.
You have to like start at the beginning so much in that game. If you like goof up one stupid thing, and then like it goes into like cockpit shooter for like the next half of it after you get through this horrible adventure mode. It's the weirdest game I've ever seen. Hilarious to go look at. So,
but visually, it was impressive.
Exactly. Exactly.
That was the whole thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, Siberia. Oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that game in a long time.
You're welcome.
Load the game and you hear that robot lady voice go, "Welcome back to Siberia." I remember all of it now.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh.
forgot about that. I'm glad you reminded me. That's great.
What a weird freaking game. And yeah, we were obsessed with that. Me and a friend of mine. Anyway, Doom. I don't want to talk about Doom anymore.
Doom.
How much have I talked about Doom on this show? I can't talk about Doom anymore.
Yeah.
I think that story is neat though.
It's funny that you said that because my friends Joe and Shannon bought me Masters of Doom for my birthday, and I've been reading it. And man, like that is a cool ass story, man. Like I'm about a third of the way through it. I really wish that I had access to a computer when I was younger, because it seems like people who are about like 5 years older than me or people who are about 10 years younger than me, like on either ends of those years, like had access to like a computer like early on and were able to like just like start programming and stuff like that. Like I'm not smart with math and stuff like that, but I think like if I had gotten a computer when I was like 10 or 11, I probably could have taught myself how to do some of that stuff. Because that's all the stories you hear about those creators from that era, right? It's like, oh, they just got like a Commodore 64 or an Apple II and just started doing shit.
Yeah. That story about him breaking into the school with his friends to steal a computer and making, what did he make? He made some sort of chemical compound or something to like break out the window. I forget what the story was.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Carmack, man, like dude is otherworldly.
He is like a freaking alien brain in a human, but I don't know.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like so far, one of my favorite parts is like after their first bit of success with Commander Keen, they had a party and John Carmack drank for the first time. And John Romero is like, hey man, are you getting drunk? And literally Carmack says, my faculties are getting incapacitated.
Dude, I follow him on Twitter, not because I understand anything he says, but just to see like the stuff that he says.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like sometimes he speaks like a normal human being and other times I'm like, what the hell are you even talking about? So it's amazing.
That sounds great.
And then there's replies with people like carrying out a conversation with him in this other language.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Justin, I took this in kind of a different angle. These are launch games that are by no means like the best or what I think are the best launch games or anything like that. And they're not even necessarily my favorite launch games. They're launch games that mean the most to me.
Okay.
And so this first one, I'm going to have to explain sort of like Angelo did. My first one is Knack for the PlayStation 4. Now, Angelo is already looking at me weird. I was super excited about the PlayStation 4 launch. It was the first console I bought at launch since the GameCube. And like I had actually it's the only time I ever got paid for writing. I had written a whole bunch of like NES reviews for Honest Gamers than they were paying at the time. So I actually paid for my PlayStation 4 pre-order with like writing money, which was like really awesome. I'd love to be able to do that again. And but like a week before the system was ready to launch, Target had like some deal. I think it was like buy 2 games, get 1 for like 25% off. And it even applied to PlayStation 4 games, which were already like on the shelves. So I ended up picking up Killzone Shadowfall, Assassin's Creed 4, and Knack. Killzone, I didn't really like all that much. I probably only played that for a couple hours. Assassin's Creed 4, I actually really loved. Like that was the first Assassin's Creed that I played. But it's got so much open world bloat that I eventually just kind of got bored with it. And, I think I got like halfway through and just fell off. Knack, I loved. I had so much fun with Knack. I love the look of Knack. I love the character designs. It's very Astro Boy, in the design of the characters. And also just kind of in the theme. And it's also balls to the wall hard. That is one challenging platformer, guys. And I finished it and it was definitely like, it was like kind of my first like PlayStation 4 badge of honor. I was like, I got through Knack. If you've played Knack, like that is it looks all cutesy and kitty until you get annihilated like immediately and you're like, oh, okay. And it's one of those games that wants like pinpoint precision. Like it's the thing where it's like you jump to this platform, you take out that enemy immediately because he's going to kill you. And then you jump over here and kill that enemy immediately. And then you make these very precise jumps. But when you land on that last platform, you better kill that enemy right away because he'll kill you and you have to start the whole thing over again. It's like that type of
Are you saying it's the Dark Souls of 3D platformers?
No. I wouldn't.
Are you sure you're not saying that, Julian?
No, it's more I'll use another term that I hate, which is it's trying to emulate Nintendo hard.
Yes.
But I really felt that that's what they were going for.
Probably.
Even though like none of the marketing seems to show it, and definitely like it seems like it's aimed at kids because it's this very colorful, character driven platformer. But no, like even in the parts where Knack gets huge, he can still get killed in like 2 hits or 3 hits or whatever. So it's like you never have a lot of like chances to succeed, and it actually sets you back pretty far when you die. And yeah, it's rough, but I was entertained by it. I never got around to playing Knack 2, mainly because it just seemed like it was very much like, oh, this is more Knack, but now you can play with 2 people. And I was like, okay, I think I got what I needed from Knack. We're outside of the honeymoon phase at this point, but definitely
listen.
then.
Yeah, okay, but listen. Okay, Knack 3. This time Knack is even bigger. Okay, what if he was even bigger, though?
Dude, I will play a PlayStation 5 Knack 3.
I think you might be the one person.
Yeah, like Ben Pack was making that joke on like before the event on Giant Bomb, and I was like, no, I'd play next gen Knack. I'd do that.
Yeah, I know. You may be one of the few, and God bless you for it.
One of the weird things about Knack, and I know this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it also might, if you think about it, is something about it always reminded me of Vector Man.
Yeah, no, I
cool.
get the same impression of that. Yeah, actually.
Also, like the weird hardness of it, and the fact that he looks like a bunch of stuff that's sort of like together, rather than one.
He's not shooting like Vector Man does, but just the way that he's configured. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, no, I totally used to get the same vibe. I never played Knack. Platformer is not really my thing, and I just was like, yeah, I've heard bad things about this game. Let's stay away from that.
I also love the fact that he's like this, 2 foot tall, cutesy little character, but his voice sounds like this. He's got this really bassy voice, and it was just like a neat little like, oh, okay, that's a fun way to like turn that on its side a little bit. I appreciate that.
Sure, why not? That sounds fun. All right. Well, I guess my next one here, I will skip over this one because I think we'll talk about it later. Actually, there's a lot of these we'll probably end up talking about again. I don't really care because my next one is Oblivion. Man, I fucking love Oblivion. I bought an Xbox 360 because Oblivion was on Xbox 360. I needed that fucking game so badly. I played a lot of Morrowind by myself. I watched people play a lot of Morrowind because I didn't have an Xbox and they did, and it's a one-player game, so that's what I did. I smoked a lot of pot at that time. It was fine. But my point is, I didn't have an Xbox 360 at launch, but my friend did, and I remember him having this game, and I didn't even know it was coming out because I didn't keep as good a track of video games at the time. And, well, I did, but I didn't. For whatever reason, I just didn't know that was coming out. And I remember him being like, oh, yeah, we're going to play Oblivion. I was like, well, what is that? And he was like, oh, dude, you didn't know it's another Morrowind. It's the same people and everything. I was like, oh, all right, great. This sounds awesome. And then, like, you get in there and, like, Patrick Stewart's there and he's saying words. Yeah. I had that opening down for a long time. I knew that opening like few minutes of that game like the back of my hand, kind of like I do Skyrim. Like I know every twist and turn that's going to come on certain missions. Probably more about that later because I've actually been playing a lot of fucking Skyrim. Like actually playing it, not modding it. It's crazy. But like we just sat there and just played the shit out of this game, and like I remember just sitting there being like, I need to buy this console just for this. Like, I have to own one of these because I need to because everything my friend is doing is wrong. I hate the way he's playing this game. I'm going to play it right. And I remember the shit one of my friends used to get into. Like, he made a character called Bo Jackson. And he made the character. He was like, okay, this is the stipulation for this character. All right. He can't use weapons ever. I was like, okay, so he's like a magic guy. That's fine. No, he can't use magic either. He's going to walk around. He's going to beat everybody up by boxing them. He's just boxing everybody. And I was like, what? And you can
Bo Jackson should at least be able to pick up like a piece of wood and use that as a weapon.
No, Julian. Bo Jackson in Oblivion was a boxer, and he punched everybody. Like he would just like walk up to people and just start boxing them. Just didn't care who they were. It was just a fist fight every time. And I've never laughed so hard in my life. especially after we learned how to duplicate items in that game. That was some shenanigans I will never forget because you can duplicate many items if you know how to do it. And I forgot exactly what the trick is, but there's like a glitch in the game where you can like drop something or something like that, and it just registers them all on the floor, and it just duplicates it over and over. You can do this with very big items and fill entire rooms up with wheels of cheese.
Yup, dude, I did. Why did everybody do cheese? Why did everybody do the wheels of cheese? I did the wheels of cheese too. It was like a thing.
We did wheels of cheese. We did pumpkins. Pumpkins was a big one. That one was really fun. And like his big thing was he used to get the guards on him. Like he would attack somebody, they'd go and yell for the guards, and then he'd drop all whatever big of items, just hundreds, to where the frame rate would just absolutely take a shit. Like the game just would barely run, and then he'd run up a flight of stairs and see if the guards could even get to him, and just laugh the entire time. Oh, it was a great time. I loved Oblivion. I don't think I ever actually beat the main quest of Oblivion, but I beat like all the guild stuff. The main quest was like, it was fine. It just wasn't that great to me. But man, I spent hours just wandering around that world. I love stealing things. I still love stealing things in those games. It's a fun thing to do. You should try it sometime. Oblivion was a great fucking launch game. I love that game.
Yeah.
Well, to clarify, it wasn't like day one launch, but it was like window. Like it was like the first month, but
it was close enough. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. That was the reason that I decided to buy an Xbox 360, because I saw the video where they were using Speed Tree, and it was the first time I'd seen Speed Tree, where they're like, yeah, we're just going to grow this forest. And I was like, you can grow a forest in a game? And, you know, because that's what they do with Speed Tree, is like, they can just like, it allows you to like kind of organically, in, you know, snare quotes, like create a forest area, and then they can go in and manually like, okay, here's where we want the paths, here's where we want the dungeons, you know, and then start to sculpt it. But I always thought I just thought that was amazing. I was like, this is truly next generation. And then I did buy the game because I think I bought the 360 like a couple months after launch. And I bought Oblivion, and then I proceeded to only play it for like 17 hours.
Hey man, 17 hours is 17 hours. I don't remember how long I played it. I play Elder Scrolls games like roughly the same as I do now, where I get to a certain point, I'm like, I've gone as far as I can with this particular character. They are good enough. I do not want to do anything else with them. Let's start a new game. And that's why I had the beginning so memorized, because I just like would get bored like 5-6 hours in and be like, let's start another one. Let's do it better.
Constantly Patricking it.
Yeah, constantly, especially Oblivion. I've never actually beaten that game, so
Elder Scrolls games are really nothing more than extended character creation tools.
Basically,
like, create a character, play around with it in the sandbox. When you're ready to make another one, make it. Like that's what I did with more. I'm looking at like my collector's editions of Morrowind, and I pulled the Oblivion one down because of course I did. Yeah. Because we were talking about it, but it was the same thing. That's all I did those games for. I actually haven't bought Skyrim yet. I do not own a copy of Skyrim, which is wild.
Man, let me talk to you about Skyrim modding.
I know. No, dude, you don't know my Morrowind box, because back then I'll show it to you. PC games used to come in these
giant
monstrously
boxes.
huge
I remember.
Boxes, right?
Yep.
This thing is full of CDs where I have all kinds of mods on them. So if I ever want to play it again, I can put the CDs in there, install the mods, and just freaking. First of all, cliff racers are done. It's the first thing to go.
Oh, they are oh god, I remember those. They were the worst.
Yep. The first thing you do is you mod out cliff racers, or okay, we'll be talking about this all day. Or reduce
exactly.
the amount of them. But those games are for modding and making characters.
That might be why I haven't been able to stick with any of them, is because it's sort of like that Minecraft thing for me, where it's like I can't really find my own fun, where that seems to be like where the joy of those games are. And it's like I desperately want to follow the story, but the story isn't necessarily like engaging enough to actually pull you through, because they want you to veer off the path, and I'm not much of a veer off the path type of guy.
Right. I would suggest for you, if like you ever wanted to try to get into one of those games, just kind of ignore the main quest for a while and go find where the guilds are. Most of the time, you can't miss them. There's like every time you get to a town, somebody's gonna be like, that guild over there is doing some wild shit. I don't know about them. And then you just go like, all right, well, let's go see what they're about.
Or usually usually like the second, they'll send you, at some point you'll go to a big city, and it's usually pretty early on in the game, and that's where you can find the headquarters for all the guilds are like there.
Yeah, that's in Oblivion. Yeah. Skyrim, there's one in each city. Like they have them spread out, so every time you get to one, it's like, this is the Thieves Guild territory, or this is the College of Winterhold, which is the Mages Guild, or this is the Companions, which is the Fighters Guild. Stuff like that. You can't miss the Companions practically. If you go
I think that's where I got to last time that I played Skyrim Special Edition.
Yeah, because you almost can't miss
in Whiterun, right?
Yep, you go down the path and you see them fighting a giant, and then the girl yells at you because you didn't help because they kill them faster than you can actually even touch them. I've only hit that giant twice in every playthrough, and I had to run as fast as I could, shoot a bow, and hit it. And then she's like, "Hey, thanks for helping us out," and you're like, wow, there's actually dialogue for it. I can't believe it. I didn't think I thought they made that purposely so I could never get this thing to happen. But also, one last thing about Oblivion, it has my favorite Elder Scrolls quest, I think, ever. And where you play as in the Dark Brotherhood, and you go back all the way through the starting prison. You have to break into it, and you end up, it's to kill the guy who makes fun of you in the beginning of the game. You assassinate him. It's awesome. It's so cool because he gets back there. He's like, what are you doing here? Oh my God, no. And you just shoot him with a bow. It's so good. I was like, oh, this is great. I love this. It's one of my favorite things of all time.
Remember when you said that my breath stank? Well, now you die, motherfucker.
That man talks some real shit too. I'm going to tell you what.
Well, Angelo, what do you have next?
Okay, so my number two, I'll warn you, my number two and number one are very basic picks, but one is for a really obvious reason, and two is because of a cool story. All right, so here's the story. My grandfather one day took my brother and I, my sister used to take ballet. She was over at a ballet class, so it was just my brother and I. And this is just random. He goes, hey, I got to go get my car fixed. Do you mind keeping us company? And he didn't really do stuff like that. It was kind of out of the blue. So we kind of looked at our mom, and our mom's like, yeah, you can go. Just go. So, all right, we'll go. So we went because it's grandpa, right? Mm-hmm. And we got in the car, and he drove all the way to Albany from where I live, which is about 45 minutes. Like, that's a long drive to do something with your car, right? And we were young, and even then we were like, this is a weird thing. What's going on? Right. Doesn't he pull into Toys R Us? And he goes, and he only did this once. He did this one time. He pulls into Toys R Us and goes, pick something out. And I'm like, that's cool, right? So my brother and I, and we're like, this is just one of the coolest things, right? No, this is not an occasion of any kind. It's pure random. So we go in there and we're looking around, and the Game Boy had just come out. So we go over to the Game Boy. But we went and got one, and we figured, we'll get one and we'll share it. He goes, don't you want one? It's my brother. He's like, yeah. So he grabbed one too. And then we bought, and my sister wasn't really into video games, so we got her some other stuff. I don't really remember what it was. She really wasn't. Like, we'd play the games, and she wouldn't even necessarily be there. She was also much younger. At the time, she was the baby. That's why I'm picking Tetris, because my brother and I spent so much time with that link cable playing freaking Tetris, listening to Russian music. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know the one. Everybody knows the one. So
very visceral memories of Tetris. Like not just sound, but like visual and touch and feel.
Yeah. And it's a cool double memory too, because it's like my grandfather was saving up money so he could do that, right? And then when he could, he's like, all right, great, I got the money, let's go get the kids and we'll do this thing. And you better believe that was like the coolest toy. Yeah, this is awesome, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
And then in hindsight, too, I was like, my grandfather saved up all this time just so he could take us out and get us this thing. We didn't know what we were going to get, but made sure to have enough money to get something good.
Right.
It's really cool. So Tetris isn't really a game I can talk about a whole lot because it's Tetris, kind of like Doom.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a great, awesome game, and I think the Game Boy one was probably my favorite one.
It was, and I remember sitting out on the front porch of our old house, right, the house my brother and I grew up in when we were smaller, because it was too dark in the house for
Right.
us to see on those screens sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So we'd go outside in the sunlight and like hold. Yeah,
Yep.
it was really
I just
cool.
looked it up because I was curious because I thought it was much more expensive, but it was $89.99 at launch. Which now that's like well over, that's close to $200 today. But even so, for that's still pretty cheap for a portable when you think that, like the 3DS came out at what, like $299 or was it $259 or something like that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Something like that. That sounds right.
That's real good. And yeah, like it's funny because I know games my mom found they were doing. Oh yeah, I think they just did like Mario Land 1.
Yep.
And Mike Alberton was talking about how much he just hates that first game, but I was like, oh man, this just reminds me of the holy trinity of original Game Boy, which was Tetris, Mario Land, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan.
Yep.
Everybody had those 3 games.
Yeah, we had he let us get a game too, and I got Mario Land, and my brother got, and it was the launch, so it was like a handful of games. He got Solar Striker because I think that was the only one.
Oh
there.
yeah,
and it had a cool box art.
Solar Striker's pretty good.
It was. I think I could 1cc that game. Don't quote me on that. But, we only had those 3 games, so we passed them around and played them a lot. That's all we had for a while. But yeah, those are some memories,
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's really cool.
That's awesome. It's funny. We'll get into it with my stage select pick for next week, but that was a beautiful story. I really like that. My next one isn't heartwarming or anything, but it just reminds me of a really good ass time. The Sega Dreamcast had one of the most amazing and flawed launches of console history, because there was something like 14 to 20 games that came out by launch day. Like it was the first launch where there were like a bunch of the games came out before the system, so you could just like buy them to get ready. But unfortunately, there was a pressing error with a lot of them, so a ton of them came back defective, and it was like across the board. So it was like, it was a lot of Midway stuff, but it was also like Sonic Adventure and Blue Stinger and stuff. Like there were just some of them that just were bad. Like you just couldn't run them. For me, the big Dreamcast launch game was Soul Calibur.
Damn it, you stole my number 1. Yeah. Love Soul Calibur.
Did that support the VGA out?
Yeah, but I never messed with anything like that. So,
because not all the games did, and that was the only way to get like a sort of as high as you could get back then picture.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
But definitely back then I was not trying to for me it was like S video, like that was as good as I would try to go as far as
me
like
too. I didn't have a Dreamcast, so
yeah.
But
so I guess for a little bit of backstory, like we had at Game Fellas the import Dreamcast, right? And so Soul Calibur was actually a launch for the. Oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't. Because like I think the Japanese launch was like it was like a Godzilla game, Virtua Fighter 3, and like one other weird ass game, and that was it. They had a really terrible launch, and Soul Calibur came out a couple months later. But we played the hell out of that. And the thing is that like I wasn't planning on buying a Dreamcast at launch. Like Final Fantasy VIII came out that day. I worked $99.99. I was there, right? And I was like, well, no, it's Final Fantasy VIII day. Like for me, that's what I'm doing. When I get home. But as listeners can attest, like I get pulled into new hardware hype. And so like, I think it was just a week later that I was like, if I just get a Dreamcast and like Soul Calibur, I can still spend the bulk of my time playing Final Fantasy VIII. And then I can just like take breaks and play Soul Calibur because I love that game so much.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I did. And, yeah, man. And it's funny, too, because like I had a real chip on my shoulder with the PS2 for some reason.
Interesting.
Because when we got the I was full in on the Dreamcast. I loved it.
Okay.
And I was really upset at the way that like, the magazines and stuff were just like, well, don't worry about the Dreamcast because the PlayStation 2 is coming out. And also trying to like get customers on board when they're like, well, but I'm going to wait for the PlayStation 2. I'm like, no, you can play Soul Calibur. but so when the PlayStation 2 launched in Japan and we had that, they had Tekken Tag Tournament, but the Japanese version of Tekken Tag Tournament like runs and plays like shit, or looks and runs like shit compared to the US version.
Interesting.
And so I remember when we finally got the PlayStation 2 launch system and we got Tekken Tag Tournament US release, they're like, hey, look, it looks better. And I was like, yeah, it almost looks like Soul Calibur now, but not quite as good. I was like super, like I was like, no, man, like Dreamcast is where it's at.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, the Soul Calibur was my number one. I fucking loved Soul Calibur. I don't think I've done as many hours into a fighting game as I have that one. There's no doubt in my mind. Like, I bought a I don't know if I bought a Dreamcast. I think when did the Dreamcast come out?
99.
99. What month?
Oh, September 9th, 1999.
Oh, September. Okay, so it would have been, I think I asked for it for Christmas and got it like a couple months later. That makes sense to me now. And yeah, I needed Soul Calibur. Every screenshot I seen of that game, I needed to play it. I had to have it. And I loved Soul Blade weird, but I did. I loved Soul Blade. I loved like pretty much anything Namco touched that was a fighting game, a 3D fighter, I was into. Like, I love Tekken. Like, I even love Tekken Tag Tournament. And, you know, I'm just going to say that.
No, yeah, it was a fine game. I was just salty that, like, you know, that I knew that was going to sell better than Soul Calibur, and it didn't deserve to.
Oh, no. Soul Calibur was amazing.
They're completely, like, we're at, like, the tail end of my interest in fighting games here, too, because it's, like, right after this is where I think the last game I was into was Dead or Alive. The Dead or Alive games, like I think 3, and then that was pretty much it. After that, I was
pretty good. That's you stopped at a good point. Yeah,
I did. I agree. But I can't think of two more different games than Soul Calibur and anything Tekken, because Tekken is deliberately so, but it's a very stiff, very deliberate game.
Yes,
and honestly, if you have a general idea of what you're doing, you can mash your way around Soul Calibur.
Oh, yeah.
Like, a player who knows what they're doing will always beat the crap out of you, but you can play it, you know, with just like, okay, figure out these things, try to mash a few things together, and it just sort of works.
Yep.
Soul Calibur historically has been the accessible 3D fighter, like, even among people who are for people who are casual fighting game fans or don't like fighting games, but also people who only like 2D fighters, they will play Soul Calibur. It's a very interesting thing to me.
Oh, yeah.
And you cannot play Tekken unless you know what you're doing. You can't.
You can. There's a couple characters you can match with.
I was going to say, you give people Eddie Gordo or Huarong. And just
my guy is Huarong.
Exactly. You can mash your way through a lot of stuff with those guys, or even like if you get a few power characters like Brian Fury, like, and you can just win in a couple kicks. Like if they land a few kicks on you, you just die. So there's ways around it, but like you're much better at that game if you know what you're doing. But yeah, Soul Calibur like is so much more pick up and play. Like anybody can just grab a controller and just mash buttons and figure it out so fast. And I, to this day, like I've spent so many hours in that practice mode, just sitting there learning move sets and all this stuff that like any Soul Calibur I pick up now, like, okay, yeah, I know what this guy's all about. I know his deal, like pretty much. And like even new characters, you kind of like, okay, what are their main things? Okay, this guy launches, does this thing, got it, understood. And you just go from there. Like, I love Soul Calibur so much. It's such a fucking good game.
They really are a fun game.
I also just want to point out that Namco had this amazing knack around this era for making their home console ports better than the arcade versions. In some cases, graphically, like I think Soul Calibur looks better than Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast looks better than the arcade version. But also just the depth of modes and like stuff that you can do on the home versions compared to the arcade versions. I mean, obviously, like they started this with like Tekken, like on the PlayStation 1, but that was always just so fun for me because like, I mean, around this time I still had like plenty of time to like get together with my cousin and play, but not as much because now we were grown-ups. Well, we were adults, you know, and so like he wouldn't necessarily be coming over for like, you know, spring break anymore, right? Because like we had jobs. Right. So I might see him in this time period for like a couple days. He might come over for a weekend or something like that. So it wasn't quite the same thing, but at least I could still do all of this fun, like single player content on the games. And I really appreciated that.
I didn't have really anybody to play with except my sister who, you know, she could mash her way through stuff, but it wasn't like competition usually. Like, we always make fun of like on my other show, like when she would play Soul Calibur, she would use rock and there was like one good button, but that wasn't the original Soul Calibur. I believe that was like Soul Calibur 3 or 4. I think it was 4 that had that, which 4 had a lot of broken stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think Rock was in Soul Calibur.
Yeah, I believe he was a hidden character. I believe you could unlock.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure they had that was also like one of the fun things about Soul Calibur. You could unlock all those people. It gave you a reason to play the game. I miss that so much about fighting games. It's great to have a huge launch roster at the start, and I know why they do it now, because competitive play, it's hard as fuck to like get a tournament going if you have to sit there and unlock all the characters. I understand, but still, man, it was a lot of fun to sit there and play through that arcade mode just over and over again and see the little endings and stuff like that, and like actually have a reason to do it because you were unlocking all this stuff. It was a great game.
And I will say that I picked up a Dreamcast a couple years ago, and I picked up Soul Calibur, and I fired it up, and I was like, "This still looks amazing."
It has a certain style to it. It's just, it's awesome. It's a great game. Sounds great too. I always love the music.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that was the first time I'd seen a 3D fighting game or 3D really game of any kind that ran at 60 FPS real smooth like that. I don't think I'd seen that in any game up until that point, because up until that point it was just PlayStation,
right?
You know. And it was just like, not only that, but it looks like I'm in front of the arcade cabinet. So,
yeah, amazing. Even probably better than the arcade cabinet. It just it looks so good. Oh man. Well, that was my number 1. It was also Julian's number 2. I guess the only other backup I had, and I guess we'll just talk about it since we've been talking about it a little bit, it was Tekken Tag Tournament. That was I loved the fuck out of that game too. I played so much Tekken 3 on the PlayStation, on the original PlayStation, and
that was my Tekken swan song. Was Tekken 3? Yeah,
and that's not a bad place to leave or to go away from it at. But like Tekken Tag Tournament, I found fun because like you just had everybody. Like it was just throw them in there. It was like the Mortal Kombat Gold or whatever the hell of Tekken, but it just played like a Tekken and was good. So like I enjoyed it, and like. Not enough can be said about Tekken Bowling. That was the funnest little stupid mode that I had. I had a ton of fun. I picked Heihachi, and that was my bowling guy. He wore his underwear a lot, and he bowled.
Oh, that's right. I always think the Tekken Bowling was in Tekken 3, but that was the volleyball.
Yes,
right? Okay.
I want to say. Hold on, let's look that up. I'm pretty sure you're right. I think. Yeah, that was because Gon was in it.
I think because that one had Tekken Force, which was like the Final Fight style mode.
Yeah.
And then it had the Tekken volleyball. I think it was just Tekken Ball.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, and you had to like. It was kind of weird. You had to like fight the volleyball. You weren't actually like volley. It wasn't like a like.
No, yeah, you were just doing
volleyball.
regular strikes on.
Yeah, you were just doing regular punches and kicks for those that don't know, and then it would hit depending on what you hit it with. It would go with more power, and you were trying to knock the person down or something like that, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you're right.
And then flash forward to Tekken. What was it, the most recent one? You had to like pay extra for fucking Tekken Bowl. Like it's like man, like. Talking about stuff that I miss about the good old days of gaming.
Yeah, at least they knew enough to put it in the fucking game eventually, but yeah still. Well, yeah, Tekken Tag Tournament, it was a good game. I enjoyed it a lot. I played it. That was one of the other launch titles I got. I don't think that I got that one at first though. I don't remember. But anyway, enough about me. Angelo, what's your number 1 there or whatever?
So my number 1 is a very basic answer, but it is literally the thing that took me from being interested in video games where I would play them at arcades. Sure, I was into it, that sort of thing, to being absolutely obsessed with them. The first console I ever put my hands on was a ColecoVision. I think we had this discussion on the show before. It was actually the game Venture, and I was not into it. To be quite honest with you, I wasn't like I was actually a little scared of the game, but I was young. I was a lot younger. Right. Go over to my cousin's house and he had this thing, and I played off and on, but I wasn't really that into it. And then later on, my cousin got an NES with Super Mario Brothers.
Absolutely.
And they had to pry that damn thing out of my hands because that was it. And it was just, it's your basic platform. You run from left to right, you jump on things, you go down tubes, you grab flags. Like but I was hooked from then. I was like, we have to get this thing. Mom, Dad, we have to get this thing. I can't. Either I don't need to go to their house every day.
Yeah.
So, and it was just downhill from there. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's, and to this day, my favorite type of game is it's still a basic 2D run to the right platformer and jump on things game. Like those are the things I love more than almost anything else. So that's why it's like my pick. And I mean, a lot of people could say the same story.
Oh yeah.
But if you're going to talk about like my number one, launch game, that's the reason I'm doing this crap,
Yeah, makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
I don't have much to say just because it's Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
But because that's all you have to say, right? Is I mean, it's 1-1.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is like one of the most recognizable levels in a video game. Like it's right up there with like the Pac-Man board, and you can hum that music to people who don't play video games and they know what it's from.
Yeah.
It's just so ubiquitous, and it's weird because it's not like I think about it and I'm like, yeah, but because when new Super Mario Brothers came out, I was like, yeah, but I've been here, done this. Like I don't want this anymore. And they've re-released it so many times, but even so, it's like if you put me down with a controller in Mario Brothers, I'm gonna sit and play it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, and I know I've said this on the show before, I've never beaten vanilla Super Mario Brothers. I've never done it.
Huh.
I've beaten it on Mario All-Stars, but that had you could save, your progress between levels and stuff like that. And also on 8.4, it actually gives you a little chime when you're going the right direction. So I didn't, I don't know if I would ever be able to get through 8.4 without that little feature.
That's
I'm really
interesting.
bad at that type of stuff.
Yeah, I watched my older brother beat the original Mario Brothers, and when I picked this stage, I figured a lot of people were gonna pick this one, so I was like, I'm definitely gonna avoid picking this myself because I know it's gonna come up. If it doesn't, somebody needs to mention it because what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people did. I think it's because so much of our audience skews a little bit younger, so they wouldn't necessarily have been. I mean, obviously, I know they played it. I'm not saying they didn't play it, but I think it's more of just they don't really think of it because it was just this omnipresent thing,
Exactly.
right? So
makes sense. It makes sense. But yeah, I watched my brother beat Super Mario Brothers. I watched him beat it. I will never forget it. It blew my mind. I was 4 or 5 years old or however old I was. And he just came over. He's like, check this out. And it gets to, I don't know what world number it is exactly, but it's one of the ones where the background is it's supposed to be nighttime. It's all black.
That's 3, I think.
I think you might be right.
It does it twice.
It does it a few times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly where it was, but there was one spot where you could get to, and he was like, check this out. And he takes a turtle shell, hits a little spot in one of the little staircases, and I think it gives you an extra life or something, or coin.
Yeah,
or something
the turtle
like
hat.
that.
One-up trick, yeah.
Yep, and he sat there and did that. I was like, oh my God, my mind was just completely blown. And he's like,
I don't know how to do that either. I've never been able to do it.
Yeah,
I've
I always mess it up.
But I know what world, it's 3 something. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. I watched him do it, and it blew my mind. And then he proceeded to just beat the game like it was nothing. He's like, "Well, it's easy now. I got infinite lives. I can just do whatever I want. It's fine." I was like, "All right, well." So I got to see the ending of Super Mario Brothers. It was very exciting, very riveting stuff. But yeah, that game is great. I don't think I've ever even beaten it, honest to God, like vanilla. You're probably right. Not without some sort of save state thing. I don't have the talent. I just don't.
Just the difference from going from something like a ColecoVision, which ironically in some ways was as powerful as NES, but it just didn't take off, right? There was a whole bunch of other problems with that thing that we don't have time to get into, but But Venture was a single screen game. You'd go from one screen to another screen, and it would be it would just load the screen. You'd run around on whatever that screen was, and it would load another screen. You'd go. Then in Mario, and it's scrolling, right?
Oh yeah,
which is something I'd only seen probably in arcades up until that point. Then again, maybe not.
No, and that's the thing that I hadn't realized, because I mean, I love video game history stuff, but the part of it, of my early life stuff, I don't think of it in context. So reading Masters of Doom, that was the big thing, was that Mario could do screen scrolling, and that was the thing that Carmack was able to get running on the PC, because at that time, PC
PCs
gaming was
couldn't do
like way behind what the Nintendo could do, and he actually got like they hacked together their own version of Mario 3 just in their free time, because he was able to get the scrolling thing to work, and that's when Romero knew, oh shit, we need to go off on our own because we've just unlocked the key to everything.
So I literally have to correct what I just said, because yes, there was definitely scrolling in arcade games. There was games like Defender, other ones, and ColecoVision did have a game that had that I played that had scrolling. It was called Cosmic Avenger. It was another shooter, and it definitely scrolled. But that being said, nothing felt more like I was exploring something than Mario did. Right?
Yeah.
Like I remember Cosmic Avenger, you got to a point where it's like, oh, and now the screen turned blue. How cool is that? Right? Like it just, the background changed color to blue.
And the way that those games scrolled it was just, I mean, you were definitely moving. It gave you the sense of forward momentum, but not necessarily like that the environments were changing, where, you know, Mario was like, okay, now like here's this staircase of blocks, and then here's this gap, and here's this pipe and stuff like that. Like everything was like very different as you would move. I mean, what would be on a single screen moving from screen to screen was like vastly different.
And it started this whole thing, like, you know, okay, left to right, you go from one end of the level to another. But if you go down a tube, you go underneath and the music changes and the whole level looks different. And if you find a vine and go up, it's all these clouds and coins and things. And it's like, what? This is new. Very new. And then people could just make up stuff and you didn't know if it was true or not. Right? Like, and that happened all the time. Like people came up with the craziest stuff. Somebody told me, oh, there's a neon pink pipe if you get really far into the game. And I'm like, okay, at this point, I know you're wrong. And isn't that a real thing? Like it's in Bowser's Castle, when there's an underwater section when you go through a tube. And because of the limited color palette, when you get to the end, for some reason, that pipe is like neon pink. And I'm like, well, okay, he was right. It's weird.
That's crazy. Yep.
Yeah.
Man.
Anyway. We could talk about that a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's a great game. It's a great game.
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, what are all these giant mushrooms that I'm jumping on now? Anyway, go on.
You know what's a greater game, though?
Okay.
No.
Super Mario 64.
Yes.
Which is my number one. So the Nintendo 64, the lead up to that was like the most hyped I have ever been for anything in video games ever.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that ever came close was actually the following year, which was Final Fantasy VII. And since then, nothing has come close to those two things as far as just my level of rabid hunger for every scrap of information. We're going back to like when it was called Project Reality, and then the Ultra 64, which I still think is a better name, and also the controller design was way better. Like I loved the logo and the original like US version of the controller that we never got. Yeah. I should see if somebody like has like mods of those with that color scheme. I bet there is. Anyway, I was a sophomore in high school, and my friend Devin, who was part of my nerd crew, like he was also equally as hyped as I was. And when we would pass each other in the hallways, we would just say Mario 64 rules. Like every time it was like a bread and butter type thing. Like anytime that we would pass each other, we'd say Mario 64 rules. And we hadn't, I think at that point we had gotten to play it at like Toys R Us, right? Demo kiosk or something. And I was working at this point, and so I was actually like spending my own money on this. And it was, this is before pre-order, so it was just like just had to like go to the store and hope that you got it, right? But Devin called me one day, and this is like about a week before the system came out, and Best Buy had broken street date, and they were selling consoles apparently. I got there too late for that, but I picked up the games that I was going to buy, which was Mario 64 and Pilot Wing 64, which are also the only launch games for the N64. Yeah. They only came with 2 games, which is crazy. But you talk about, we were talking about instruction booklets last time, and I pored over that instruction booklet for a full week, just constantly staring at it, just looking at, oh, look at all these moves I'm going to do. Oh man, this is amazing. And full color book, like wonderful art.
Yeah.
I was like, it just drove my excitement through the roof. And I remember, like I had asked my dad to go to Best Buy that Sunday, and he was able to get a system for me, because this was also like, it was early enough to where like it wasn't like lines around the block, right?
Right.
Like, games weren't to that point yet.
Yeah, not yet.
So I think he told me there was only like a few people in line, and they had enough systems to handle all those people. But yeah, getting it that Sunday and then just doing nothing else in my free time for like a week or two straight until I got 120 stars. Like, I freaking love that game. I love the music. I love the look of it. I love the feeling of the flying.
Yeah.
I still think that it has like the best camera of the 3D Marios, which is really weird to say because keep in mind that I haven't really played it much since it came out, but I remember the camera working where I don't remember, like, I always remember having a lot of trouble with Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy and even Mario Odyssey of like, this camera isn't doing what I need it to do. Like, it's not keeping up with Mario in a very fundamental way that's really messing with my mojo.
Yeah.
Now maybe if I go back to Mario 64, I'll have the same complaints, but I feel that like back then I was like, this is how every game should play. And then every game didn't play like that, and it was a super bummer. It was like, but Mario did this already. Why can't you do what Mario did?
Yeah, I just have the Mario 64 a little like castle theme in my head or whatever. That dun 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 da 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 da. Dun. I'm just sitting there like humming that while you were talking. I don't know why. Like, it's just a great song. Yeah. As soon as you
and that really nice like ripple effect when you jump into the paintings and the sound effect when you jump into the paintings.
I remember. Yeah, I remember just playing that at Toys R Us for the first time and just walking around the world and not even realizing that there were levels and just being kind of in awe of it. I was just like, I was like, what is this the game? Like, this is cool, but what do I do? This is neat.
Part of me would have been fine with just that. If it was just you running around the castle.
I was like, I'm sure at some point I will figure something out and it'll be really cool. And then I jumped through a painting. I was like, holy shit, there's levels. This is where they are. They're in the paintings. I get it now. Yeah, it was really cool. That game's great.
Still one of my favorite Bowser fights. I love grabbing him by the tail flinging him around.
Racing the penguin.
Throwing the penguin off the cliff.
Yep.
Everyone did it. Don't lie to me.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It loses a little bit of stature in my eyes for changing Princess Toadstool's name to Princess Peach. I've never liked that. But whatever. Like, no one even cares besides me. I was like, her name is Princess Toadstool.
I did think it was weird too.
Yeah. I didn't care. It's fine.
I bet it was probably Peach all the time in the Japanese version.
It probably was. They probably just finally translated it correctly and are like, oh no, that's what it's supposed to be. They'll be fine with it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we don't have time for this discussion, but just the whole like, but she's human, but she's the princess of this kingdom that everybody else is like mushroom people.
Oh, Mario and Luigi aren't.
Well, but they teleported there from our world.
Do you know that to be true, Julian?
That's canon. They're from New York.
Are you okay? The movie is not canon.
No.
Is that canon? Okay, all right.
Yeah, because like the whole thing is like because in Mario Brothers they were just doing plumbing, and then at some point they get into like they find this like big pipe.
So the movie was accurate. Okay, got it. All right.
I've never seen the movie. I refuse.
Oh, it's a masterpiece of cinema, honestly. It's fucking great.
It is something.
It sure is something.
It really is.
It's a movie that people paid money to make and then proceeded to make.
I did watch it in the theater.
The performance of Bowser is inspired.
It's, yeah. Oh,
it really is.
It really is. It really is. It's kind of fun. Yoshi is like a dude with a small head. Game's fucking great. Or the movie's. That's why immediately I was like, "No, that's the movie. What are you talking about? That's not real. That's not what happened."
Yeah, they did take the lore to
that part of it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job, them. Good job.
By the way, I would love like.
What's that?
That's the whole premise of the movie.
What was it?
What if dinosaurs didn't really die? They went to another dimension, and what if they found their way back?
Yes.
Like the whole intro.
Yeah, everybody get up, get on the floor. Everybody walk the dinosaur.
I think we're probably done with the stage select, but we have
Are
our
you
lovely
sure
listeners.
I could talk about the dinosaur all the rest of this podcast if you really wanted? We'll listen.
No,
to
I think I'm good. Unless you want to talk about the television show Dinosaurs, we can get into that for an hour.
Not the mama.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, before we head over to pixelbit.com, we did get a message from our good friend Adam Bradbury over on Facebook. So let me bring that up real quick, like.
Facebook.com's Adam Bradbury. He has things to say about video games. Why did I say Facebook.com? Because for some reason, if you say .com after things, it drives Julian insane. And it's kind of fun to do. I don't know why.
No. It's more of just saying the same thing repeatedly in a very short span. It doesn't really matter what it is.
Right. So if you say Facebook.com enough times, he will get annoyed eventually. So from Facebook.com, we have Adam Bradbury.
Fuck you! Yes, Adam Bradbury does have things to say about video games, and they sound like this.
Yeah.
Totally aping Justin's mojo.
That's the way to go.
He says, best console launch game is between Tetris for Game Boy and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch. Cue that Zelda sound from the Game of the Decade episode. Played both of those games so much. Those are both excellent choices.
Indeed.
Yeah. Tetris is the nostalgia one for me. Like I enjoyed Breath of the Wild, don't get me wrong, but also that was a Wii U game for me. And I think for Angelo too, like that's where we played that. So it's like I don't associate it with the Switch. Like I've literally never opened my copy. I bought a collector's edition of Breath of the Wild for the Switch on launch day. I was actually driving towards San Francisco at that time, and I was like, you know what? I'm in Arizona. Let me see if there's a store, and I'll just see if I can get one, right? Like, because again, launch hype.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find one. This is like hours after it opened, but I was like, oh, there's a collector's edition of Zelda. Let me buy that and store that away just in case. And then, I still haven't opened it.
It's the way to go. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, excellent picks.
Yeah.
Now we're over on pixelbit.com.
We are. Would you like to take this first one, Justin?
I will take this first one from pixelbit.com. It is our good friend San Andreas, and he sounds something like this when he talks about video games. See, I'll change it just a little bit, and I'll throw you off. Now you can't steal my thing. Number one, Breath of the Wild. He says, it's one of my favorite games of all time, and certainly my favorite game of the 2010s. There will never be a launch title to equal it unless Nintendo makes an even more amazing Zelda as the Switch 2's launch title. But what if Breath of the Wild 2 is better than the first one? You don't know. It might be.
Well, but it wouldn't be a launch title unless they've got something up their sleeve that we don't know.
We're going to have a weird thing where they launch a new version of the Switch, and then it'll count as a launch title for that new version.
Yeah, this generation got weird, man.
Dude, they could. You could totally see them doing it too. Switch Pro plus Breath of the Wild 2. It's totally something they could do. They could totally get away with it.
It'll be new Switch something.
It'll be the Switch over. Yeah.
No. Because that's Nintendo's weird thing. It's new.
No. Think about it. The Switch over.
I thought about it.
Better than the other one.
I mean, the Switch has been over for me like pretty much for 2 years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think
those unique. We're going to go with the word unique. Naming things was kind of an Iwata era thing.
Might be.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like they're probably moving away from that now. But new this and Wii U. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't think we.
Oh, are you saying that like that weird stuff is because Iwata's gone?
No. I'm saying when he was there is when it was happening.
Because they like the new 3DS XL. I mean, that was like long after he died.
Right. But he had already had like I think new 3DS was already. That wasn't long after. I gotta look that up.
Because I want to. Didn't he die in 2009?
I don't know, but
no,
our buddy San Andreas.
No, that can't be right.
You guys go ahead and look that up.
Yeah, no, because Wii U was already out.
Yeah, it was before this. It was before the Switch launched because they had a bunch of tribute to stuff for him.
Yeah,
that's right. In Breath of the Wild, you're right. Yep, I remember that stuff.
Well, and also like because he took a massive pay cut because of the failure of the Wii U.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to lay off staff, which
good for him.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe certain
Oh, no.
CEOs should think about that and maybe adopt that. I don't know.
Maybe they should. After that, we had, he says his number 2 is Super Mario 64. It wasn't just a game. It was a marvel of technology that showed off the promise and potential of the N64, even if the system fell short of that.
That is the sad realization of Mario 64 is that nothing came close.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super true. Yeah.
I mean, Zelda was really good, but that's probably as close as anybody got.
Some would argue GoldenEye was a pretty hyped up game for it. Like, I mean, it was very of its time. Like, that game doesn't hold up like, but
I understand like why people loved it, but at the same time, like just as far as like quality and presentation and control, like no, it's I mean, nowhere near.
That game sold systems though. Like, I knew people that didn't give a shit about the N64 until that game. After that, his number 3, Final Fantasy IV, got the SNES off to a great start with the game that was a huge leap over its NES predecessors. The music was amazing in its time.
What do you mean in its time? It's amazing now, San Andreas. Yeah. Also, I didn't realize that this was a launch title. If it was, this would have been my number 1. Because Final Fantasy IV is one of my favorite video games of all time, and it's my favorite Final Fantasy of all time. So if I had known that, then my list would have been different. Because holy crap, because that for me, Angelo, that is the game that got me from, I just like video games to now I am obsessed with video games. That is specifically the moment where I'm like, I'm going to keep doing this for a really long time.
Yeah. I wonder if Mario 64, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, but there's something there where it's like, I can't think of a Mario game specifically. Maybe the Galaxy games, but that is as replayable later than that one, right? Like, you could go back and play Mario 64 right now. You can go back and play Mario World, Mario 3, Mario 2, Mario 1. You can do that and have a blast with them.
Yeah.
I don't think the later ones hold up quite as well as those ones 64 and earlier.
I think that might be our age.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's our era. I think that people who cut their teeth on Mario Galaxy can definitely go back and replay those.
I think there's an argument for Galaxy for sure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Sunshine, no.
There might be an argument for
Sunshine.
Odyssey. Odyssey was pretty fun. I wouldn't mind going back and playing
as much as I love Odyssey, I don't think it's going to hold up as well as those other games in the long run.
I don't know. It might. To me, it looks great. Like it has like a classical style. Like, to me, the graphics in that game, I don't feel like they're gonna age super badly because of how it's stylized. Like it's not. Like,
I really love the overall design of Odyssey, and also I wouldn't mind replaying through the whole thing just to do the thing in the last level again with Bowser. Like.
Yeah,
fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that
I'm like, fun. Oh no, you didn't. Oh, you are. Oh, that was literally me.
That was fun. That was fun.
See,
that was a great game. Little. Yeah,
it's a good game. It might. I mean, I might go back and play it in a few years and go like, okay, maybe this is aged a little bad. But like right now, thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know. I could probably go for that game. It'd be fun. But
but I think what I'm trying to say, and I don't want to drag this on too much longer, is if
you're good.
Dropped any one of those games in front of me at almost any time, Mario 64 and earlier, I'd be like, heck yeah, I'd love to play this right now, right? And I'd play it.
Right.
That's true.
I don't know. I'd have to wait for the other ones. Like, you could not. I don't think you could do that with any of the other ones. They'd have to sit for a while.
You're absolutely right, because Odyssey, even I kind of would have to be in the mood for it, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
I do think part of that is age, and I think part of that is also because those other games are longer. But I think if you put those same games in front of like some of our listeners, they would say like, no, I don't want to play anything like before Mario Sunshine, like that, because I really do think it's a generational thing.
That's fair. I mean,
suck it, Jeffka.
Well, if you grew up with 3D games and you go back to 2D, it's like, what is this archaic stuff? It's almost like the way I feel when I play like Atari 2600 games. Right. Which my parents would be like, "Well, that's what video games were. They were great. What are you talking about?" That kind of a thing.
Right.
So,
all right, Angelo, do you want to take this next one from Casey?
Sure. I like his first pick, Halo. This game didn't just put the Xbox on the map; it defined the FPS genre for 2 console generations. And unlike most launch games, it's still fun to play today.
I can't believe it didn't come up by now. I thought for sure Justin would have said Halo.
I think that's a solid number 3 pick too, because I honestly, he might argue with me, but I think that game aged because I went back and played it recently, and I'm
Me
like,
too.
oh, these controls.
Oh, how recently I played it.
Yeah. And there's other parts too where it's just like the game can just like decide you're screwed this time. I'm sorry, this NPC is going to die, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like that kind of a thing.
A lot of it. Okay, so part of what made Halo so great was the multiplayer. Like the multiplayer was second to none. It was amazing. Like
Blood Gulch, pistols only. Let's go.
And I would go. I was more of a Hang 'em High guy. Hang 'em High was great.
Hang 'em High was a really good map. Those were all really good maps.
They're so good. All the maps are really good. It was such a good multiplayer game. But like you go back to that campaign, I'll talk about this later. I got a lot of stuff about this.
Yep. Okay.
Well, just real quick, because I was not a Halo fan. Like, it didn't really impress me when I saw it, but I did get to, because I never bought an original Xbox. I've never owned one. But there were a couple times when Game Fellas got together and we did link play, right? Because like we had 3 TVs in our store, like already set up. So like, and we already had a demo unit there, and then we had a used unit, and then one of the guys brought his system in, and we linked them up, did that. That was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy that. And then there was a party that one of the guys had where we did the same thing. And yeah, like even for someone like me who didn't play first-person shooters and didn't play multiplayer games, like those are really memorable moments. Like I really had fun with them. You know, and maybe if I had a situation where I could do that with people on a regular basis,
that's what made the difference with that game. Like if you didn't have anybody to play it with, like it's really not impressive. And like the campaign mode, and I'll get into this later again, bits and pieces of it are rough. Like even at the time, I remember having like hard criticisms about it, and my friends just going, "No, shut up. It's great. It's great. Look at it. It's Halo. It's fucking awesome." I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I'll talk about it later, but it's still a good game. It's still really good.
There was this article in EGM, like I think it was shortly, like it was like an issue or 2 after the Xbox launch, where they were just talking about how all they've been doing in the office was playing Halo multiplayer. And like I was like, oh man, that sounds really fun. Like I had never even seen that before. And it showed pictures of like the staff just like crouched around 4 televisions, you know, like playing linked Halo. And I was like, wow, that
linked party or that LAN party that you were talking about, that was every weekend with my friends. Like it was just like I had friends that had the most elaborate setups. They were like, okay, I'm going to run this cable from my basement all the way up to the living room. So that way we don't know what those guys are doing, and they'll be on that team. And just crazy shit like that. It was what a time to be a gamer. And he's right. It defined like console shooters for a long time after, and rightfully so. It still plays great, I think.
And not just that, but when I was on Games My Mom Found, and I know you're going to be on, Justin, for Halo, but when I was on for Soul Reaver 2 just recently, I remarked about how like it doesn't have full right analog stick camera control, and I really do attribute Halo to mastering twin stick looking and movement. Because I could be wrong, but I don't remember a game actually doing complete free camera movement on the right analog stick until Halo. There were games that let you do it, but you would usually have to go into a first person mode before it would let you do it. You couldn't just do it on the fly anytime that you wanted.
Right.
GoldenEye and Perfect Dark.
Well, but they didn't have 2 analog sticks.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This is the first time yes, you're right. I kind of misunderstood what you're saying with that, but this was the first time I felt the controller actually worked. With those games, it felt like, okay, we sort of made something that you can do. And I was like, it was a good workaround
with the controller that they had.
But Halo was the first time where it actually felt good. I'm still more accurate with a mouse any day of the week. But
I was going to say,
that's the thing.
To my knowledge, like Halo was so inspirational. And I know Julian not high on this game, but Half-Life for the PC, like it's kind of like in the same thing where like Half-Life innovated what shooters did on a PC. Like that is a PC game. And like that was the one where
Yeah.
like it's like, hey, WASD and key and mouse. That's what the game is. Like
Yep.
that's how you control first person shooters now and everything going forward. That's how you do it on a PC. And Halo was like, this is how we do first person shooters now. It's this. This is what you need to aim for. This is the bar. Fucking, you can either raise it or you can get the fuck out. That's basically it. And yeah, that's my thoughts on Halo.
I would actually accept the first Half-Life as a launch title because Steam.
Oh, wait.
I would-
No, that was Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
You're right. I would not accept it. Okay. We got to move on. Number 2, Super Mario World. Best Mario game. Suck it, Justin.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'll remember this, Casey. You
Do you think that
I'll
might be an
remember.
age thing too? Like maybe we're older than Casey. Do you think maybe it's because we maybe lean more toward Mario 3, and he might lean more toward Mario World?
I mean, I'm Mario World 100% all the way.
See, he
Okay.
is too. See,
I'm like torn on Mario 3 versus Mario World.
oh,
They're
me too. I
so
think.
I mean, they're both.
Yeah.
Again, they're both like they are the two best Mario
Yes,
games.
they are.
But Mario World is just a little bit better in my eyes. And again,
really-
it comes down to the cape.
The cape is pretty good.
I'm so good with the cape, and like once you really like make that cape sing, like it makes that game sing.
Man, whatever. You got a frog suit in Mario 3. That shit was great. He
got
was
all
so
the
cute.
suits in Mario
You
3.
got so many suits in Mario 3, Julian. It was so good. It was imaginative. You could fall through them white blocks. Can you do that in World?
But none of them were as useful as the cape.
Hammer Brother.
They had a raccoon tail. You could fly. It was fun.
You could do that weird. You couldn't fly. You could fly in Mario World.
Exactly.
If you
The
knew-
game's
if you knew
broken.
how to
It's
do
not
it.
as
Do
good.
like the
You can just fly
parachute
through the level.
dip
Why
thing.
even make the game? You can just break the game. It's stupid. Screw it.
You're right though, and that's the other thing too. Is I think Mario World is easier.
Mhm.
I mean, I do personally.
I do too.
Yeah.
I 100%
Yeah.
agree.
Because
Anyway.
it took it. I don't think that I ever beat vanilla Mario 3 without the warp whistles.
Maybe you need to get good. That's
Maybe
all
I
I'm saying.
do, Justin.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it's a better game.
It's hard. Let's see. Okay, number 1, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I couldn't put this down for over 80 hours. One of my favorite games ever. Thank
Good
you,
game.
Casey.
It is a good game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next up we have Super Step, who says, I was thinking you wanted the best console launch games, and that theme would have led me to a lot of the games mentioned before my comment, like Breath of the Wild, Halo, Super Mario 64, etc., because you can't deny how much those games meant for their respective systems. But my personal favorite launch games, here's that list. Spider-Man 2 for the Nintendo DS.
Ooh.
Look, it's
All
not a
right.
great game, but for whatever reason, I played the shit out of it and always looked forward to side swinging through the generic level design as sort of a brainless escape. It's one of those games that does absolutely nothing new or innovative, yet it's so easy to pick up and play, I would do so over and over again. Sometimes you just want run-of-the-mill action, or at least I do. It definitely held me over in those early DS games when it was either this or playing Super Mario 64 DS with a tiny D-pad. Honestly, I was like this because I don't really think about portables a lot when I'm thinking about console
Right.
launches, but I was this close to picking Tony Hawk 2 for GBA because that game is phenomenal.
I've never
and I
played
had so
that
much
version.
fun with it.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly good. The
Really?
way that they translated that into like this like isometric. Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. Next up, he says Peter Jackson's King Kong for the Xbox 360. He says, okay, this is cheating because I never actually played the 360 version.
That's fine.
But I did play the PS2 game I assume this is a remaster of. And let me tell you, actually, it wouldn't have been a remaster. I think they came out at the same time. It was
Probably.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah. He says, this is a fucking good game. Hell yeah, I want a cinematic experience in which I play a giant gorilla that rips dinosaur mouths in half. Don't let this game be forgotten. It is a treasure. There's even a Polygon article completely overhyping it. And he links to that if you want to go to the show thread for episode 179. That's one that I intended to play mainly because like I heard that it was like an easy 1,000 points back when I was like definitely like achievement addicted.
That makes sense.
But I just never got around to it. It looked cool to me. It's from, I'm trying to remember. I think that's a Michel Ancel game.
Is it
Trying to
really?
remember the pedigree of it. It's got a pedigree
I believe you.
that makes it like stick out more than your average licensed game. Like someone worked on it that's like a name, and I don't remember exactly who it was, but
yeah,
I'll look that up later and check it out.
That's one I never mess with because, as mentioned on our special that maybe nobody will ever hear, you never know. I avoided licensed games pretty early at some point. It's as soon as I was like, oh, this has a license attached to it, it's probably really bad. Like I just started not even paying attention.
Yeah, and there was a bunch of companies that were just shoveling out stuff with a license on it, especially in like the Super Nintendo and Nintendo era. Bad games, bad ports, whatever. Yeah.
Let's see. Lastly, Superstep has Wave Race Blue Storm for the Nintendo GameCube. He says, I mean, I could put Luigi's Mansion here since I actually own it and do enjoy it, but it's always been a bit of a slow game. But when the GameCube first came out, this game's water graphics and physics blew my 11-year-old mind. I've heard people, specifically YouTube channel GameSack, say the controls are more stiff than Wave Race 64, and they don't like the sarcastic announcer in Blue Storm. I definitely believe those criticisms despite never playing the N64 game. It could be a bit hard to make some of those turns, but damn, I loved running Blue Storm. So fun and graphically hypnotizing. I was very close to purchasing Wave Race when I got my GameCube because that's a system that I did buy at launch. But I played a pretty good amount of the import version before the American launch, so I felt I was good. So I ended up just picking up Luigi's Mansion and Star Wars Rogue Squadron, which was really the reason that I needed a GameCube at launch was for Star Wars.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, over on Pixelbit, we have our buddy Exrian, and he picks this for his number 3 pick, and it is Soul Calibur from the Dreamcast. I don't know why I started reading that like a robot. It's a good game. He says, I actually got a Dreamcast and this game towards the end of its cycle when it was really cheap, but I played the hell out of it. It's still one of the few fighters I can pull out and have fun without having to relearn everything. Also, Sophia's grab, you know the one, was the young man's dream. I do know the one.
The one where she, like, knees you in the nuts?
No.
Oh, wait, no, the one where she gets on your shoulders.
No, keep going. Keep thinking.
Those are the only two that I remember. Like
really?
The one where
you're serious. I thought this was a bit. Okay, no, you don't remember this? Okay, guys, listen.
Not.
Okay, there's a throw that Sophia can do. Apparently, I'm the Soul Calibur expert, and I believe that. There's a throw you can do with Sophia. She will take you, grab you, flip you like to where you're bending back, sort of. Throw her legs over your face, and then sit on your head.
I have never seen that throw.
It's you missed out, man. I'm just saying, it was pretty good.
I remember Ivy's the one where she like uses her whip sword to like do the weird like bondage crossover thing on you.
Oh yeah, she did. But there's my favorite one of hers is like from the back behind throw where she like wraps the whip around your neck and kicks you down, and then like basically like kind of I don't know slit your throat. Not really. It's Soul Calibur.
It's pretty brutal. Yeah,
I know. It's pretty awesome.
That one.
Yeah.
I mean, Taki definitely slits your throat in one of her throws.
Taki was one of my favorites. Yes,
I love Taki.
Taki's great.
Yeah. I loved Taki's outfit.
Just love Taki.
Yeah. I was more of a Song Mina guy. That was always my pick there. She was kind of the Chun-Li of the game. Moving on.
Fair.
Number 2, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Yes, that's right. The real Zelda. Unlike the open world, I need to eat food or die crap. Note, I did enjoy Breath of the Wild. Please don't hurt me. This game was everything I wanted when I got the Wii. But to be fair, I wish I had played it on GameCube. I haven't went back to this one, but I'm currently playing Ocarina of Time and want to one day.
That's one of the few that I've never touched at all. Like, even though I'm not a huge Zelda fan, I tend to at least give them a shot, and I've never played Twilight Princess at all.
I don't think I've played that one either. That was, what was this for? Wii? Yeah, that's why I didn't play it.
Yeah. Wii launch and also last, like, Swan Song for the GameCube.
That's right.
Which is and that's the superior version because they, like, flipped everything for the Wii.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because of the Wii Remote stuff.
Oh, yeah, because the Wii ruins everything. Is number 1, Resistance Fall of Man for the PlayStation 3. This game was amazing. I don't know why it didn't get more love. Very interesting guns, alternate timelines, extra weapons after you finish the game, and so much more. I still remember being blown away by shooting out specific parts of a window instead of it shattering on contact. I want a reboot, Sony.
I think it got a pretty good amount of love because it got 2 sequels.
It did.
Again, a game that I've never played any of these games, and it's weird because I loved like Insomniac's games so much up to this point, and I know that it has like some, their trademark like weird weapons and stuff like that, but there was just something about the look of it that was so boring to me that I just
here's why this game doesn't get a lot of love, because it came out in a world that had Halo and was Halo obsessed, and it looked like a lot of games and shooters of that time. And like it just got,
it wanted to be a hybrid of Halo and Call of Duty.
Right.
And it didn't really hit the peaks of either one.
Right. Exactly. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle. It was, but like I keep thinking like they
I like it.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a bad game, by the way. I'm definitely not saying it's a bad game. I know I've touched it like briefly and was kind of like, yeah, all right. And kind of moved on, which I do with a lot of first-person shooters. It takes a lot to get me to sit down and play one of those. And I'll talk about that more later because, boy, I had to force myself to do that. But yeah, like I just remember this coming out at a time when like it just seemed like they PlayStation was trying to find their Halo, because that was like they were getting their ass kicked a little bit on that front. Like they didn't have, they had games, Sony did, but like they didn't have that one for the West, they didn't have that big seller like that. The one that all the kids lined up for and all the Mountain Dew was making stuff for and all that. They wanted that, and they tried to get in on it, and it didn't quite work because a lot of people just went, yeah, it's just another game that's trying to be this. At least that was always the impression I got from it anyway. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying this is why it kind of fell by the wayside.
I think it's ripe for a new release.
It could be interesting, but at the same time, I think this is one of those franchises that people have just altogether forgotten about. Like, I mean, I could be wrong. Obviously, he hasn't forgotten about it, but like, it's such like I don't want to call it a B tier game because I think that's a little harsh, but like it's just one of those franchises that like it's almost like Knack. Like if we see another one, I'll be like, oh, neat, they brought that back, cool. But like I don't expect.
I think this was way but it was popular enough, and also like clearly Insomniac is a 2-game studio now, so I can see after they're done with the next Spider-Man. Well, I mean, obviously there's going to be a Spider-Man 2 after Miles Morales, but once they got those 2 out of the gate, and also the new Ratchet and Clank, I could totally see them coming back to Resistance or doing something brand new. But
it'd be interesting. I'd rather them do something brand new though. Like, it's just one of those things where I'm like, if you do it, like, I don't know who's going to really remember, and like, who's going to, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody yelling at me, I remember it, I'll play it. And then that's cool. I'm not cutting you down. I'm not saying you're wrong or anything. I'm speaking almost from the businessman standpoint right now, where I'm just like, I don't know who's going to remember this franchise. I don't know who's going to buy this. Do we really need a first-person shooter for the PlayStation 3? Like, I don't know. I'm not saying first-person shooters are over as a genre. They're certainly not, but like there's a lot of established ones. It's like you got to beat Call of Duty, and that's pretty much, if you don't do that, what are you even in the game for a lot of the time?
Well, not necessarily, because I think that there is a market for like the single player story focused first person shooter. So like, and there aren't a lot of those, and most of them are being made out of like id, Bethesda, right? It's just Wolfenstein and Doom.
Yeah, that's true.
So I could see them occupying that niche,
maybe,
instead of trying to go head to head with like the multiplayer stuff.
You could be right, but I don't know. Again, like it's just a name that I just feel like his time has forgotten about at this point.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. If it came out, I'd be like, oh shit, they brought it back. That's neat. Like I would be interested in it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'd be very surprised.
Yeah. Well, Angelo, last but certainly not least on Pixelbit, we've got Daft Man, who looks like he's got a pretty fun story here.
Yeah.
You mind taking this one?
Sure. All right. I've rarely had consoles right when they launched. As a kid, it was a problem of getting the money together and then finding the dang system. But let me focus on one time I was there at launch day. Game Boy Advance.
Nice.
Story time. We were traveling across the country to get home after a family get-together for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. It was after 10 o'clock at night on June 10th, 2001. We stopped in a town in Nebraska. I had saved up the money for the GBA, but pre-ordering consoles wasn't really a thing back then. But I begged my parents to take me to see if we could reserve one to pick up the next morning. Toys R Us was already closed for the day, so we went to Walmart, and my heart sank as the employees there told us they would not be selling the GBA till June 13th. Ooh. 2 days after the official release set by Nintendo. Oh, 2 days after the official release set by Nintendo. On the morning of June 11th, after checking out of our hotel, my parents agreed to take me to Toys R Us before we got back on the road. I was crushed after the news from Walmart. All the signage in the Toys R Us said June 13th for the GBA, but I asked an employee anyway, and he told me that they would not stock them on the shelves until the 13th. But their boss had said that they could sell them as soon as they had come in, and the truck had arrived that morning.
Nice. Nice.
I had enough money for the system and one game, but my dad let me get 2, Mario Advance, and most importantly, Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Nice! That game blew my mind. The vocal Kyrie, or Kyrie?
Probably Kyrie, yeah.
Kyrie,
I'm
okay.
guessing.
A traditional...
Well, he actually puts a...
yeah, he did put a pronunciation thing.
Yes.
I should probably read that. A traditional part of the Mass as a musical form. Gotcha. That's what he's talking about. Okay. That's what Kyrie is. Playing on the title screen was enough to do that alone, but I had not played Symphony of the Night, so I didn't realize how badly the castle was designed or how unbalanced the random card drop system was. So he didn't have Symphony of the Night to compare it against.
Yeah.
This was his first. Okay, nice. That actually works. Though the horrible darkness of the screen was obvious to me, but none of these things deterred me from loving that game to death. I'd be very hesitant about replaying it since I know it pales in comparison to the games that followed it and the one that came before. But I can't think of a game that I actually bought on launch day that made a bigger impact on me.
That's an awesome story.
That
It is a great story.
Yeah. The only thing about Circle of the Moon that I had problems with was how dark it was.
Yeah.
I actually think that Harmony of Dissonance is the weak one of the GBA trilogy. I know that I'm in the minority on that, but Harmony of Dissonance, like, at some point just becomes a slog. Like, it really overstays its welcome. Where I thought the Circle of the Moon was kind of just right. It was definitely a step back from Symphony of the Night, but also it was like launch for like a portable system that wasn't as powerful. You know, it made sense to me, so I was fine with it.
Interesting.
When I had played that, I had a GBA SP with a backlit screen.
Nice.
So I never had that problem. That was
SP is so nice.
Yeah, I actually didn't get one until I got the SP. So
that was
my experience with that.
Yeah, the SP
anyway,
was such an upgrade. God, I owned
really
both
was.
of them, and yeah, when you had the SP, there was no going back. Like, there really wasn't.
All right. Well, moving on to Twitter. Justin, would you like to take this first one from Xavier Krieger? Or wait, is it my turn?
I think it's your turn.
It is my turn. Okay. I will take this one from Xavier Krieger, who is on Twitter at Cadus Bane. Number 3 is one that I'm glad he mentions. Cameo Elements of Power. I honestly don't remember much about this game, but I remember it was super colorful and a ton of fun. I loved Cameo. That was one of the first games that I bought with my Xbox 360, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was sad that it never got a sequel.
I never played Cameo, but I remember its existence.
I think that's probably why there was never a sequel.
Yeah.
that was rare. Was that rare?
That was rare.
Yeah.
I should have played that. Whatever. I haven't played it yet. I might even have a copy.
If you have, oh no, never mind. You don't have an Xbox One because there's that rare replay, and I know it's on
nice.
there. Next, he says Luigi's Mansion is a super atmospheric, charming game that provides a really enjoyable start to one of my favorite consoles of all time. I do have a soft spot in my heart for Luigi's Mansion. I don't think they should have made 2 sequels to Luigi's Mansion. As I've said before, they should just make other games where Luigi is on his own, but in different environments and situations. It
probably should have been a one-off. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it would have worked that way. And then he went on different adventures. Like, now he explores, like, I don't know, Canada. He goes to Canada. I don't know what he does there.
Like, whatever. I love the idea of him being by himself because he is not the adventurous brother. He does not have time for that shit in his life, and he doesn't like doing it. It's always Mario like egging him on. But I like it when he's like, oh well, I guess I've got to do this because Mario isn't here. You know, like that type of thing.
Luigi's stuck in traffic. I'd play it. I'd play it. That's all I'm saying.
And number one, I actually had to look this up because I wasn't sure. Actually, I'm still not quite sure what system this is for because I don't remember it being a launch title. But Xavier says his number one is Marvel Ultimate Alliance. He said it isn't the best launch game of all time, but it's my personal favorite. The summer after this game launched was right before my senior year of high school, and I remember us getting a group together to order food and sit and pass controllers around and play this game for hours. It was such an amazing time and is definitely one of my favorite gaming moments. I think I did look this up afterwards, and I think it came out for the Wii and PS3 launch.
I was just going to say, I think if I had to guess, it'd be for the Wii. But yeah.
And I love Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Mm-hmm. I love both of those games. I didn't play the third one because it didn't seem like a quality product, but but I love those first two.
People think it's fine. I don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Let's see. After that, we have Philip, and he is at PK Becker on Twitter.com, and his stage select sounds something like this. He says, I have a soft spot for Resistance Fall of Man, Halo, and Super Mario World are the other two that come to mind.
There you go, Xrian. So, you're not alone.
You're not alone. People. I want to make sure my rant didn't come off the wrong. I'm not saying that was a bad game. It was a totally fine, acceptable game. I was just saying like why I would be really surprised to see it again. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, and I would be too. But I feel that it has almost as much of a shot of coming back for next generation as Killzone does. Simply because like. I know Killzone is more popular, but I also don't see them not letting, like, they're going to make a Horizon 3, right? Like, I feel that they're doing that before they do another Killzone, just because, I mean, they did so many Killzones and they were all kind of the same.
Well, Killzone was marketed specifically as, look at that, this is the Halo killer, like when it first came out, and then
it so wasn't.
It sure wasn't, yeah.
All right, next up, we have Blaine Faya, who's on Twitter at Blaine Faya. And he says, there is only one console game that really made an impact for my gaming career, and that game is a little title called Halo. Mm-hmm. This game is the reason I'm an Xbox man, and the memories of this game are endless.
Pretty good.
Yeah, well, no, I guess it's come up a pretty good amount of times. I kind of expected it to be on almost everybody's list, but then I have to remember that the Xbox was not nearly as successful a system as the PlayStation 2 or the GameCube. So
it was definitely one of those ones where I avoided it after I seen a couple people. I was like, oh, I get to talk about Halo. Cool. I'm gonna pick my other favorites, so I'm just gonna avoid it. After that, we have our buddy Esteban Islas, and he is on Twitter at Expired, which is a cool way to say that. And he says, okay, here we go. Oh, hello there, pantsless nerds. I was truly defeated by the last couple of stage selects. I'm sorry. But I would not let that happen this time. So without further ado, let's get ready to rumble. No, really, this is my first pick. Ready to rumble, round 2. When I would have friends or family over, this was definitely a favorite game to beat each other up in with its wacky characters, even including the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. Pretty crazy seeing him get into the ring and showing how bad he really was. Now, my next game I didn't own because I didn't jump on the PlayStation 3 until a couple years later, but one lucky friend did get it and had Marvel Ultimate Alliance. This game was a fantastic 4-person game with being able to play together all at the same time while not being tangled up in something like Spidey's web with controller wires. We definitely spent a lot of time, after school hours on this game, trying out different combos of characters. Super fun and good times. I may have went all out on my first 2 choices, but for the third, just because I remember it being really cool is Injustice: Gods Among Us. I'm a comic book fan, so seeing games with Marvel, or in this case DC, I take a chance on a lot of them, and this one surprised me with Mortal Kombat-like fighting style, with a crazy story to add it in besides just a straight fighting game.
I'm glad that he picked Ready to Rumble Round 2. I don't remember what system that launched with, but Ready to Rumble 1 was the other game that I bought for my Dreamcast.
Yeah.
I got Soul Calibur and Ready to Rumble because I was like, okay, these are just like fun arcadey games, and then I can go back to Final Fantasy VIII.
You picked well. I'm pretty sure I had the exact same too for my Dreamcast. Oh, they were good.
Yes.
But I am also a fan of Injustice. I'm not like... I think that style of fighting with the Mortal Kombat things is real hit or miss with me a lot of the times. Like, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not my favorite thing in the world, but I do love the Injustice story like mode. I love the way like NetherRealm does their story modes. They're really good. So even though some of them are nonsense, they're fun.
They need to be nonsense. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Yeah.
The more nonsense, the better.
Oh, they just put out Mortal Kombat like DLC that I watched somebody play through it. It was pretty entertaining. I was like, that's good. I'm good. I don't really need to play through it. It's fine. But more story content. That's cool. I thought it was neat.
Yeah.
Shang Tsung, the actor from the movie playing him. Oh,
that does fill my heart with
joy. Dude, it is a great. He does so good. It's so good.
He was the actor that I wanted to play the Mandarin if they ever put the Mandarin in a Marvel movie for years.
Pretty good, yeah.
I still think that he could pull it off. I don't think that he's too old for it, but I also saw the guy that this actor going to be playing the Mandarin. It's like, okay, you got a guy that can play the Mandarin for like 10 years, so that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we're waiting. I'm waiting on you. I read that one.
Oh, you did, right? Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I'm spacing.
It's okay.
For some reason, I thought that I know why. It's like, oh, you're going to read your arch nemesis, but I'm going to read your arch nemesis.
I was going to say, if you want, I'll read it. I don't care.
No, I got it. Our next one comes from Jeffka, who's on Twitter at Jestoff, who Justin hates.
Yes, thank you.
And well. It's going to continue right here. He says, number 1, Sonic Adventure. This one may be cheating a bit because I never played the Dreamcast version, but the GameCube DX version. They supposedly aren't that different, so I'll still put this down. The game isn't all that amazing, but I still strangely love it and go back every now and then to play through the janky cutscenes and awkward level design. Great in my mind, maybe not in reality. I'll still never forget, like, in that first level, seeing it on the import version of the Dreamcast, where that was the other launch game for Japan. You know, like when you're running away from the whale, that still looks really cool until you realize that you're actually not really playing the game at that point. Like, it's just kind of auto-controlling Sonic, and it's like, okay. But that's kind of also my problem with Sonic in general, is that it feels like at some point you just get to a situation where you're not really in control anymore. He's sort of like Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, where you're not out of control, you're not in control. Never mind.
That makes sense. No, I totally get it. Yeah. I get it.
Next, Jeffka says, Super Mario 64. This is one of my favorite games, and there's not much I can say. Very good game, and one of the best on the 64. Some would say the best on the N64.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good one. You picked a good one there. I like it.
You did.
I don't hate you as much. I slowly. You can make me hate you less, Jeffka. You can do that. I'm just kidding. I love Jeffka. He's great.
Justin's grudge, like he bears them for long periods of time.
We have a nice, like, he's like the Gary to my Ash at this point. Like, he's just the snide, like, other guy that just picked the better Pokemon than me, and I'm just like, God damn it! Like, he just shows up and he's like, I beat this before you. Now you can't. You're not as good. Fuck you, man. Like,
oh, your Bulbasaur hasn't evolved yet?
Yeah, exactly.
My Charmander has.
Yeah, exactly. It's bullshit. But
get on my level.
Exactly. I'm not on Jeffka's level yet. I got to level up a little bit more. I got to walk around, get in some random battles.
Yep. Next, Jeffka says, Luigi's Mansion. The GameCube is actually my favorite system based upon nostalgia and value. I love it. Luigi's Mansion is one of the best on the system, hands down. I love the charm, the simplicity, and little quirks and details that really bring the game to life. Irony intended. Great game, great system. Yes, I am very biased. I just love hearing Luigi say, Mario.
Yeah.
Mario.
And then also humming along to the music when he's scared. I've always loved that so much.
It's so good.
All right.
It's actually the best because, like, I know I've said this before, but I think it's long past time for Charles Martinet to hang it up and let somebody else voice these characters so that they can actually sound like human beings and maybe say more than just a couple lines. But his work with Luigi, I think, is the best stuff that he does. Like, I really love the way that he puts personality into that character.
I don't know how I'd feel about fully voice acted Mario.
This is the problem with the world.
I'm gonna
every
be honest
time I
with you.
say that, like, this is the reaction from everybody.
I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't know how I feel about that, Julian. I never thought about it.
There are like 4 seasons of really good cartoons that already prove that this is possible.
Yeah, those are pretty decent. I don't know.
Not so much like that first season with Captain Lou, but like when they get away from the live action stuff, that stuff is pretty darn good.
Okay.
When they do like Mario 3 and Mario World.
I do remember Captain Lou.
Yeah.
That was... All right. Well, let's move on here to our buddy Matt Jorgensen, who is at Metal Matt Returns on the Twitter.coms, and he says, for his stage select, ever since my fingers could grasp a controller, I prefer JRPGs over any other genre, except rhythm games. That shit is lit. But JRPGs are not often launch titles for consoles. So this whole thing proved extremely difficult. I managed to find 2 that I played and enjoyed, though. Pocket Bomberman for the Game Boy Color. Bomberman's pretty good. Bomberman's fucking great. I love me some Bomberman. I think we talk about that in that special at some point. After that, he says, Advance Wars Dual Strike for the DS. I didn't play either game as a launch title, just in my meanderings, though the backlog of games... through the backlog of games when there weren't any new JRPGs I could get my hands on, but I enjoyed my time with both. Advance Wars is also very, very good.
You know what I just remembered too?
What's that?
Meteos. That was a good one. That was a good one. That was a launch title. That was a good one.
Yeah.
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 That was DS?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Man, I love it.
Yeah, I don't remember much of Pocket Bomberman other than the box art. But I love me some Advance Wars. I didn't play the last Advance Wars, the really dark one on the DS. There was 2 on the DS. I didn't play the second one.
I think I did, but I don't remember. God, man, there's so many of those
that
handheld
series
games.
needs to come back.
Yeah, that one. Okay, that one. Make a new one. I'm in. They basically replace it with Fire Emblem. Like that's what that's what how they think, but they're very different games to me. Like they're very
and it's funny too because like Fire Emblem Advance Wars was kind of the replacement for Fire Emblem for the West.
Yeah,
because Fire Emblem hadn't like really done anything over here, and then Advance Wars did really well over here. But then when Awakening for Fire Emblem came out, that was the change.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, you don't need to release just that. You can do both.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anyway. We have a new champion coming to the show.
Here comes a
Justin.
new challenger.
This comes to us from John Marinkovic. He's on Twitter at John Marinkovic. I love that last name. I hope I'm saying it correctly. It sounds really cool.
Being John Marinkovic.
Yes. I'm sure he's never heard that before.
I'm sure he hasn't either. I'm very original. Shut up.
He says, I'm new to the podcast, but I absolutely love listening to you guys talk all things gaming. Thank you for finding us and listening to us. I also found out from a comment later that his buddy Blaine Faya turned him on to us. So thank you, Blaine Faya.
Thank you, Blaine.
Or maybe it's Blaine. He said his buddy Blaine. I'm assuming it's that. It could be a different Blaine. I don't know.
Blaine. If we haven't heard from that Blaine, you should tell him to get his ass in gear. That's all I'm saying.
He says, original Xbox I got with Jet Set Radio Future. That game was terrible, but it was just dumb fun that my brother and I played for many years after the 360 came out. I remember people really liking Jet Set Radio Future. For me, I think I felt it was kind of a been there, done that because I had already played Jet Grind Radio on the Dreamcast.
Oh, yeah.
And it just felt like more of the same, and I kind of wasn't ready for more that soon. Mm-hmm. But I thought that it was a very, well-received game.
Right.
I didn't get it either, to be totally honest with you. I played that one. Somebody recommended it to me, like talked it way up. I was like, no, you're going to love this. This thing's amazing. And I had not played Jet Grind Radio because no Dreamcast, and the person that I knew that had a Dreamcast didn't have it. So I kind of went in cold, and I was just like, this is weird. And that was kind of like it. You know what I mean?
It is a weird game. Yeah.
It is a weird game, and it's not like there's the Sega wackiness, which if you didn't grow up with it, and I didn't, it's kind of jarring.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I think I could appreciate it now, but stuff like I think I would have, I don't know, like think about any of those games. Like just throw Burning Rangers in front of somebody that's never seen anything like that before, and you're flipping a coin whether they'll get it or they won't. And it's probably weighted toward not getting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, you kind of have to grow up with the Sega humor. I don't know what the word is for it, really.
Man,
personality.
The more I think about it, Sega really likes rollerblades, don't they? They're really into it. Like, they had a whole, like, fighting game, Fighting Vipers, that was all people with rollerblades. At least that's all I remember about it. It's everybody had rollerblades. I'm probably very wrong.
No, I think one person on Fighting Vipers has rollerblades.
Well, they all had it because that's how I remember it. So
yeah, but then Cannon Spike, they were all on rollerblades.
There you go.
So,
exactly.
Oh, wait, no, that's Capcom. But it's on the Dreamcast.
It's fine. Yeah.
Street Raids had a guy literally named Skate on rollerblades.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of rollerblades and... Yeah.
Well, because rollerblades are very extreme and 90s, and I feel that, like, Sega peaked in the 90s being extreme.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's almost, like, honestly, I find it charming to go back and look at those games, though. Like, there's such a, like, cheesiness to it that I love. Like, I adore that stuff now. Like, at the time... I was like, this is all right, I guess. But like now as an adult, I am like, this is fucking hilarious. And I love every minute of this. So,
Oh no, I appreciate it now. I just didn't then.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. After that, we have Amaze Skitty. He is at Arhexis. Am I right?
Yes, yeah, you are.
Okay.
I forgot that was there.
Okay, great. I'm glad I did a thing. He says, stage select. Gonna use the site to figure out launch games because my sense of time with the release is bad. That's totally fine. He says, number 3, Disgaea 5 complete. I really much enjoyed the Disgaea series since the PSP game. So getting the chance to import this early with it already translated was a nice treat. With this game being grindy as hell, it makes 100% sense to be on a portable versus being stuck to a TV. Hitting level 9,999 when reincarnated to do it all over again, this will hold me over till other fun games come out like Disgaea 4.
Was that a Switch launch?
Disgaea
5 is relatively recent, or was that PS? I don't know.
I don't know. That was what I was immediately thinking was Vita, but I don't know.
It seems too Vita seems too far back.
Yeah, I agree.
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up real quick because it's going to bug me.
Yep.
Switch. That was a Switch release.
Okay, cool.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I love me some Disgaea, but they are a little too grindy for me.
I don't hear Disgaea and immediately associate that with the Switch either. That's to me like a PSP Vita thing.
Yeah.
It's like that's where it occupies in my head. So
I immediately, that's a Vita game, right? And then then when we started going over timelines, I was like, oh no, that doesn't sound right. But
well, it's because like all those early Nippon-ichi games were all on PlayStation 2, so I just associate them with PlayStation.
Yep, me as
and Vita's dead at this point. So where else are they going to put them? Switch. Yeah, it's really the only other place.
Yeah, really. Yeah, pretty much. They should put the whole PlayStation 1 library on Switch. Why not? Fuck it. Why not? Number 2, Legend of Zelda Oracle of Seasons / Age for Game Boy Advance. Yes, I'm going to cheat and count it because I got it with my Game Boy Advance with the Game Boy Advance only function. And out before the Game Boy Advance, how can I not? These were the kind of Zelda games I liked, just fun and exciting time wandering and exploring with a glut of items, better than the N64 releases comparatively.
I'll allow it.
I wasn't going to argue.
Because I do remember that, like, those were, like, some of the very last, like, major, like, Game Boy Color games before things switched over to the Advance. So they were basically like, hey, these are coming out, but you can play them on the new system. So
that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
You could play them in both. That was an intentional thing. That's right. They had I think it was called the Advance Shop. If you put them in there, it was a special shop that only appeared on the Game Boy Advance that you could go to, and I forget what it did.
Yeah. Well, and also just the Game Boy Advance was backwards compatible with the Game Boy stuff.
But there were
that's
actual features locked behind the Game Boy Advance functionality.
Which I don't think that I knew until just now. That's pretty
I was going to say I didn't know that.
I played those on Game Boy Color.
Oh, neat.
Interesting. All right. Well, his number one is Super Mario 64 for the N64, obviously. This was the first time I played a 3D game at a Blockbuster playing with the demo unit. Tried to take it all in. I just knew I needed this system. Once I had gotten it for Christmas, I couldn't and wouldn't put it down. And
as you should have not.
Right. Now I know there's one more, Julian.
You actually still shouldn't have put it. You should be holding on to it right now. Never put it down.
Just glue it.
Let me go. Hold on. Let me go grab it. It's in the other room.
You need to glue it to your forearm at all times. And that, I don't know how you play the game after that, but it'll be fine. There is one more. Somebody commented on the thing, I believe.
Yes. That was our buddy Bobby Bronson at BG Bronson, who I believe they're back to doing T&B podcast, although I think they had to get like a new, like, basically they had to like start it from scratch again. And I think it's only on Spotify now, and I don't do Spotify, so hopefully they end up like publishing it on other like podcatchers so that I can listen to it, because it's about time that they brought it back, those cowards. But he says Tekken Tag Tournament on the PS2, I believe, was a launch game. That's what he has to say about that. Yeah, it sure was a launch game.
It sure was a launch game.
It sure was.
It was great. It was a good game. I liked it a lot.
All right. Well, that is a stage select. They're just getting longer and longer every episode, folks. But they're fun.
Yeah.
I helped.
I did.
I did not make it shorter.
And so next episode, I have reasons for what I want to do. But what I want is some of your favorite memories of video game related gifts. Now, I'm sure a lot of these are going to be like Christmas or birthday related, but it can be whatever, and it doesn't have to be necessarily like a video game. If it's something that's like a toy or a poster or a whatever, like it can be that. But I'm hoping to get some really good ones about like moms and dads buying like neat video game stuff for you, because it's just that time of year for me. But I would like those by 8:30 Central Time on July 24th. That's the next time that we'll be recording. As always, you can go to pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 180. You can DM us at NWPcast. You can also go to facebook.com/nerdswithoutpants podcast and send us a message there. But that is going to do it for this edition of Stage Select. So let's go ahead and jump on into Consumption Junction. And now, Angelo, normally I would start with you since you are the guest, but there's one thing that I want to talk about that I want to aim towards you.
Go for it.
Have you tried the Messenger?
No, it's on my list.
It needs to go higher up on your list. It needs to go much higher up on your list.
Is that the Ninja one?
Yeah, it's
the Ninja one.
Gaiden one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this game came out on the Switch and the PlayStation 4. Was it a year ago? It might have been 2 years ago.
I want to. Oh man, I think it was 2018.
I think you're right. Yeah, because I've been waiting for this for a while to come to Xbox One.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm just not that high on the Switch. Also, the eShop is a pain to me. Like actually purchasing stuff digitally on Nintendo hardware. And then I could have got it for PlayStation 4, but I was like, but Chivos. I was waiting for an Xbox version.
Yeah.
And it's on Game Pass now, which is super awesome. So it was like a no-brainer for me. I figured I would like this game, but I had no idea how clever it would be. It is legitimately funny.
Yes.
There is some excellent dialogue in this game, and it does things with like video game tropes, and also it's a very logical humor. It kind of reminds me of like Captain Jack Sparrow in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, because as crazy as he is, there's a very like distinct logic to his humor. Like, you know, like there's in the first movie, like someone says like, oh, like they say that like Captain Barbossa has killed like everybody. There's no one ever left to tell the tale. And then Jack says, well, then who tells the tales, I wonder? You know, like that. It's that type of humor that I really appreciate, especially the stuff with the shopkeeper and the main character.
I was just going to say the shopkeeper I played that game around release and I didn't get super into it. I think actually the thing that hampers my enjoyment of it is I got it on Switch, and I'm not trying to bring the Switch down, but like controlling it on there just never felt right. Something felt off, and I think that's because I was trying to play it with, you know, the little Joy-Cons or whatever, and it doesn't quite translate to that. Because I even tried after you said like, man, I love this game. You sent me a message about it, and I was like, all right, I'll go try it again. Maybe I didn't, you know, and I was like, I can't play this on the Switch. There's something I just immediately went, I can't play this on the Switch. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I know you guys love the Switch. I'm sorry, but I do remember that shopkeeper because I did get that far. And I remember being like, "Oh, this is clever as hell. This is really cool." That guy was great.
There's a lot of fun things that they do with that, and there's other characters that you meet later on, like some of the bosses that you fight. Like after you beat them, there's just like some amazing, hilarious stuff that happens with them, where it's almost like, why did you attack me? Like I wasn't doing anything. Like that type of stuff. And it's weird because like I know that like especially the giant bomb guys, they were really like hush hush about the twist, but I think that's a selling point. So I'm just gonna say it. The game starts out with like a pseudo 8-bit style, but I mean obviously it's way better than 8-bit. Like the graphics look amazing, nothing that the like NES could ever achieve. But then at the halfway point, it turns into a 16-bit style, which is really cool. But there is something that happens at that, like a little bit after that point that I don't want to spoil because it is so like, I was like, wow, that is really cool. And I kind of did like a slow clap. I was like, that was a really neat thing that just happened. And I thought like really cool moment. But the thing that really makes this game stand out for me, Angelo, is that it is pitch perfect on control.
Oh, good.
It feels so good, and it is a very challenging game, but it's like just the right amount of challenge. This isn't a splatformer. This isn't Celeste or Super Meat Boy, which I tend to not care for that type of platformer. But it is a game where it's like, if you're not hitting these jumps just so, then you're gonna have some issues. But the thing is that I tend to like hit those jumps just so, even on my first try. Like there are times when it's like, holy shit, I just went through this sequence of like 5 screens that should have killed me, and I just got through that on the first try. I feel like a champion right now.
That.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. So I really recommend it for that. The only downfall for it, well, there's 2 things. I think the music is actually kind of garbage.
Oh, I disagree. I just think you don't like chiptune. Like I think it's chiptune.
No. I like chiptune. I don't like the orchestrations of this game.
So I love the first stage's music, but that's really all I've went and listened to though.
Yeah, and see, when you picked that, when you guessed it on our music episode, that was the one I was like, ooh, I don't know if I like this. And then sure enough, like I don't like that one, but I don't like a lot of the music that I've heard later on, even when it changes to the 16-bit version.
I really like that first stage music. I think it's fucking awesome. Yeah. Like, so disagree hard.
Yeah, you might like the rest of the soundtrack. I have not. There's like maybe one level where I've been like, okay, I like this, but most of it has been like, ooh, man, I kind of want to turn this down. And I just think it's just a matter of like the compositions that they just don't do much for me. But the other thing is that when you do switch to that 16-bit style, it sort of turns into an action exploration game at that point, but not completely. And so it's this weird thing where it's like, okay, now you're having to go navigate a Metroid-style map, but there's still pitfalls, but not all the time, because now there's places where you can go up and down that weren't there before. So it's this weird thing with my brain where it's like, I'm looking for places where I can go up and down, but I can also still die if this isn't the place where I can drop down, right? So it's like I'm constantly having to like open up my map to see, wait, is this a place that shows like that there's an area below me or not? Because I don't want to, you know, there's an interesting death mechanic, and also they keep track of your deaths, and that it, you know, it's one of those things where it makes fun of you when you die, which is cute, but also after a while it's like, okay, yeah, I've died 174 times, you don't have to rub it in anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got other stuff, but I just, before we started off, Angelo, that is one that I highly recommend you specifically play. It's real darn good. But yeah, I think maybe based on what Justin said, probably play it on PlayStation 4 instead of your Switch.
I'm not it doesn't feel good on Switch, but then again, maybe if I played it on Pro Controller, which I didn't do,
right,
it might be fine.
That's a game that you need a really good D-pad for.
I did not exactly, and the Joy-Cons are not a good D-pad. They are not a D-pad. It is buttons. That is not a D-pad. It's what was that? I don't know what that was.
Oh, that was Baltar, because apparently, according to your sister, I cannot mute him. So
that's great. Please leave that in. That was awesome.
Nice.
All right. Who's going next? I was going
to kick it over to Angelo.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I bounced off a lot of things that I tried to play for whatever reason. So
you played Doom Eternal, and then you just couldn't go back to any other video game. You just,
there's something about that. It's not really accurate, but it might be.
Oh, I get it.
So like Phantasy Star Online 2 came out, and I was like, well, let me try this. But that's me in MMOs. Like, of course, I bounced off that, right?
Yep.
But I bounced off that really hard too, and I loved the first PSO, and this was supposed to be a return to form, but it is a little bit too much of a return to form, and I was like, I just don't think I can go back. I don't know. Like, I played it for like a couple hours, and I was like, I don't think so.
That game's how old now?
That PSO 2 is like, I think like 7 or 8 years old already.
I don't think they did much like extra work to it. They just ported it over. It's like, it's not, now it's on Xbox. Go play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I built a character. I ran around a little bit, tried a bunch of things, and because I had never played a Phantasy Star Online game before, none of it made sense.
That sounds right.
And I didn't know anybody to like really explain it to me. And I'm like, these are probably all mechanics that they could use other words, but because Phantasy Star World, they want to use the Phantasy Star language, and I get that, but at the same time, now you've lost me, I don't know what you're talking about.
I've always had trouble with the Phantasy Star lexicon because it, like, their spells are weird. Like, it's like, what does this do? I don't even know. What? Like,
yeah.
What does this mean?
It's crazy. But yeah. And then what else? I've got the whole list here. What was the other thing? I'm looking through like the games I have installed that I just haven't gotten around to removing from my hard drive yet. There was another one. I don't see it on here. I might have already uninstalled it. But I remember I was watching like videos, and I saw Total War Warhammer. Fantasy Warhammer, not 40K, right?
Right. Okay. This is the strategy style?
This is the strategy, but it's the Total War games. Like there was Total War, Medieval Total War. There's what the other one? There's like a samurai one, Shogun, right? Yeah. Total War Shogun. So I was like, all right, hold on. You and tactics games don't mix. You are looking at this thing. You love this thing. You want to play this thing. You watch streamers that play these things because the whole thing is every single time you try to play one, you bounce off of it. So you got Shogun for free. It's in your Steam library. If you want to play this one, go play that. See how long you can tolerate it for. And if you end up playing it for like a good 5 hours and you like it, then we'll talk about, like this is the conversation.
Right.
Do you know how long I ended up playing Total War Shogun for? 1 hour.
That sounds right.
I bounced right off of it. It's just, and I can sit here on the show and say, hey, you know what kind of games I like? Arcadey games, fast-paced games, decision-based games, or turn-based, right? Mm-hmm. This weird middle ground of RTS and like strategy turn-based, it's where it gets like muddy, but especially like RTS, I'm out of that. Like,
Yeah, I'm terrible with RTS.
and that's kind of what this is, right? Like those Total War games, but they're just like a massive scale. Like you're just pitting huge armies of people against each other. And there's definitely strategies and stuff, but it's like none of these characters do anything automatically. Like one of the things they taught me is it's like, okay, your spearmen are getting charged. So now turn them so that they're facing their attackers and they're lined up this way, and then push this button so they hold their spears out so that they stop the people on horseback. And I'm like, if I have a spear and then somebody's trying to get me with a horse, that point is going out whether my general tells me to or not. Like, why is it not automatic?
Yeah, that's wow, that's weird. Yeah, that's weird.
You have one job. Be ready for the So I don't know. And then it's just everything else. It's like I don't want it to be it's too micro. It's not my style of game. People love it. I love watching people play those games. I love hearing them talk through the logic. Like that's why I like watching people stream that kind of stuff. But just for me, no.
Have you ever tried any of the Civilization games? Those are like pretty much completely turn based. I'm just
That was the next game I was going to talk about.
Oh, great.
I'm not even kidding. Civilization, was it 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6. So one of my kids got real into Civ, and I think I mentioned that before, except he always plays it where it's just like, I'm going to murder everybody. Who cares, right? Like, that's his thing.
Yeah.
So we all got the game. So it was him, my wife, and me, and we all sat down, and we all spun that thing up, and we made some AI, and we're like, let's kill them all, you know? So that's what we did. And we played it for a few hours. We never actually finished the campaign. Because those are long.
Oh, they are quite long. I lost almost a week of my life, like just skipping sleep because I was like, oh, it's like 6 a.m. I didn't even realize that. It didn't feel like that long, but okay, great.
Yeah. Now that I liked. The Civilization I liked, right? It reminded me a lot of Age of Wonders, which is another turn-based game.
Yes.
That I like a lot. So it hit like similar notes, except it's, more grounded. It's not George Washington isn't throwing fireballs at people.
Right.
It would be really freaking cool if he did.
I mean, there is a glitch in the original Civilization that I believe they've kept in most of them.
Yes,
where,
I know which one it is.
Yeah, the Gandhi.
Nuclear Gandhi.
Yeah, nuclear Gandhi. Somehow Gandhi is so peaceful that if he goes down in his like peaceful level, he eventually there was some glitch where it didn't actually just stay at 0. It would just
the way the math worked. It came around the other side.
It would come around the other side. So immediately he would just start building his nuclear arsenal and just start nuking everybody.
Everyone. Yeah. He just goes nuts. He
it's amazing.
I'm turning the entire world is a microwave now. I'm sorry.
Yep.
That's thank you, Gandhi.
I mean, if you really think about it, that's true peace. If you just destroy the world, that's how it works.
I mean, that's literally Megatron's whole tagline is peace through tyranny.
Maybe Megatron's right. That's all Gandhi is saying. I don't know.
So yeah. So that was that I really enjoyed. It was just the matter of it took too long, and we have like the weekend to play these things, and that's about it. And even then we have other obligations. It's like, I can see how my kids are into this and they're saving it and coming back to it and then playing it the next day.
Yeah.
I miss having that kind of time for video games. I just don't anymore.
Yeah.
But I would definitely play that again. We have the campaign saved. We say we're going to go back to it. Whether we do is a whole nother thing.
Right.
But it's there.
That's almost the type of game it seems like it's almost like a board game night where it's like we're playing Civ tonight. It basically is. And we're going to do this every week.
Yeah, it is basically a board game. Yes.
Yep. That's probably why I like it.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's why I asked you. I was like, "Have you ever played this? This seems like it'd be something right up your alley." Like,
yeah, it's real good. There's a whole lot of turns where you just accumulate stuff, just accumulate turn. Now you do a whole bunch of things, and it's neat. I like it.
Yeah.
It does feel a lot like a resource management sort of a game. And when my kid and I were allied against, and China was coming over, and I was the United States, and I forget what he was, and I was like, let's take out China. Here we go. I forget who it was on the Chinese side, but I was oh gosh, who was I? I forget who the president was in this game. It's not Washington though.
It's Roosevelt, I believe.
It is Roosevelt. You're right. So we're just like, Rough Riders, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
I don't remember who I would always play.
it's just a shame of who's going to be in charge when we actually do go to war with China. It's just
We'll see. No, actually, no. It's a shame either way. You're right. Never mind.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
crap.
happening.
Well, dude, come on. I was
Anyway,
having
video
fun with it.
games. Let's forget about what's happening
That.
outside the window of this apartment. Let's just move along.
One more, and then I'm done. A demo came out. I had no idea this game was coming, and it's one of those games that, like, oh my word, surprise! I didn't know I wanted this my whole life, but here it is. It's called Gloomwood.
Ah,
You hear about this one?
I did. This was the
may
one
have.
that they fucked over the developer on the
Yes.
preview of it because
left
they
them
were
off the
supposed to
schedule.
they messed up the schedule or something. Yeah, I remember this is I remember watching it afterwards because I think you commented on something on Twitter and I was like, oh, I'll check this out, and I clicked on it. I was like, yeah, this looks neat.
But yeah, it's Thief, but you're murdering people. It's
I
kind of
thought that was
cool.
Thief.
Huh?
I thought that was Thief.
No. So in the original, did you play the new one? Is that why?
I played a little bit of that one, but I thought the thing with Thief was that it was like Hitman,
No,
but
not at all.
but trying to steal stuff also.
If you play on the easy difficulties of Thief, that Thief had one of the best difficulty systems I've ever seen in a game. Actually, Doom has a really good one too. Those were like my two favorite difficulty systems. Doom didn't just increase like enemies' health and stamina; it messed with enemies and enemy placement. So if you play Doom on like the difficulty I like to play, which is the one right before they all come back, if they all regen, you run into shotgunners in like the first room of the first level. As opposed to if you set it to an easier setting, it's people with pistols and there's fewer of them.
Right.
So it's really cool, like the way they did that. It's like they actually put a lot of thought into what the different difficulty settings. Thief is similar, except what it does is it does a little bit of that, but not as much as Doom does. And I'm not sure if it actually messes with the guard's intelligence. I think they're the same, but what it does is your objectives change. And not just like it will give you, okay, now you're not just going here to get this particular item. You have to go here, get this particular item, and steal this amount of money and not kill anybody. Right?
That's sort of like how the older Hitman games do it. For like, if you want to do like silent assassin runs, is like it's not just like you can't leave your suit behind, and you can't kill anybody, and there's like a bunch, and you can't be spotted on CCTV, or if you are, then you have to destroy the tape.
Yeah.
Like there's all like a bunch of extra steps you have to do if you actually want to get that rating.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you play Thief on the intended difficulty, you're not actually supposed to kill people.
Okay.
He always says like I'm a thief, not a murderer, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's like his little line, but he's still not somebody you want to run into in a dark alley. He's not a friendly dude. Anyway, Gloomwood is a little different. You're playing like some sort of a doctor or something, and you do have to stealthy sneak around, and it has the light gem like Thief does, and it has a very the aesthetic of the game is very Thief like. I think I made a comment.
Dude, I'm looking at this right now, and they sure did make a 2001 era like 3D first person game. Holy shit!
Yeah,
they did. And here's the funny thing: is I downloaded the demo. If I'd seen it, I might not have downloaded the demo. If that makes sense.
No, yeah, 100%.
When I
Because
played
I'm like,
it, I was like, dude, this
why?
feels like somebody made a different game in the Thief engine. But because I love Thief, it works for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
And the other thing, and this is the stupidest thing in the world, it was like when it really clicked is like I love this game is the stupid door handles, because they literally use the same door handles that they do in Thief, and they wiggle the same way and everything. And I'm like,
they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they know who they're going for.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that game to come out. I'm very excited for it. And the fact that the game actually wants you to kill, like, I don't want to phrase it this way. You're supposed to actually kill the enemies in the game because they're not human. They're evil murder things. So you have to take them out. But if you don't take them out stealthily, they are tough to kill. So it still gives you the same level of tension of sneaking around, because if you get spotted and they aggro on you, they're a lot harder to deal with. Versus Thief, where it's like, oh, they saw me, so now I'm going to save scum because I can't kill them. You don't really want to, you know what I'm saying? Like it removes the temptation to save scum, which you almost have to save scum through Thief. I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but you know what I mean. Like that's kind of how you have to play it through. At least
that's exactly how I
Yeah.
would play it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how I played the older Hitman games. Like
Oh,
the
yeah.
first
There
one
you
that I played was Blood Money, and it was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I got spotted, reload.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But when you play them a few times and you get used to the levels and the language of the game, then you don't really. Then you say, okay, I'm not safe scumming. I was safe at the beginning of the level, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then it's more fun. But not first playthrough. No. Anyway, that's really all I have to talk about.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Well, so I'm just going to go real quick, Justin, because
take as much time as you need. I don't really got a whole lot, so
no, well, because there's one thing, like there's two things really that I've got left, but one of them I don't want to go into detail here or on like this episode, but
yeah,
I did want to
know what you're
mention.
talking about.
Yeah, I did want to mention that I just on a whim, because I had bought this like a few, like I don't know, like a year or more ago. The Return to Arkham collection on the Xbox One. And I don't know why, I was just paging through my games on my hard drive, which is really cool. I love having this big digital library on my Xbox One, and I'm like, here's what I have installed. Let me look through here. It's like, oh, you know what? Kind of want to play Arkham Asylum again. I haven't played it since 2009. And I will be damned if that game did not suck me in just as thoroughly in 2020. Yeah, man.
Right.
Like it is such a masterclass in game design. It's still my favorite in the Arkham series because I do like how contained it is.
Right.
And how it's paced. Can't say enough about just like bringing back the animated series cast, because this was the last time that they got Arlene Sorkin to play Harley, because after this it was Tara Strong. So, and you know, listening to her now, it's like, okay, I actually do think I prefer Tara Strong for the modern Harley Quinn, because you got this. It's funny too, because I had forgotten how impactful Arkham Asylum actually is, because this was the moment when Harley Quinn went from Joker's sidekick to everybody cosplays as Harley Quinn all the time, and now she's like a bigger character than the Joker, and you know, blah blah blah, because you know, unfortunately they had to take her clothes off for her to get like this big notoriety. But you know, like the sexy nurse Harley Quinn is the beginning of Harley Quinn's ascension to where she is now. And I had forgotten that was from the video game. Like it's weird how that works, where it's like, because you know me, I still like the original like Harlequin outfit from the animated series. I just think that's a really cool look. I understand why she wouldn't use it anymore, right? Because she doesn't roll with the Joker, but I still prefer that costume. But yeah, just, you know, like all of the Scarecrow stuff and the stealth and the combat. Like the combat is still real damn good. You know, the only thing that I don't like, and this was even back in 2009, I don't like the fact that, because it's this rhythm-based thing, but you'll drop a combo if you don't do anything in a set amount of time. And I think if you're at least inputting things, like if you're just at least like doing like the jump, like the jump dodge, that should still count as an input and not count against you. Cause like there were plenty of times where I would drop a combo where I hadn't actually like messed up. It's just that I like jumped or I dodged when I should have actually struck and blah, blah, blah. You know, that type of thing, where I wish that they were like, that's the only thing that I really have a complaint about on the combat. But it's still like, I was still doing like challenge room stuff and racking, like I was trying to get as many of the achievements as I could. I got almost all of the Riddler stuff again this time, but I was finding like, you know what? I did this in 2009. I don't need to do it again, but I still almost got everything in that game a second time because it's just so good. That game is just so good.
It is.
One of the craziest things about that game is, to me, it seems like they mash different worlds together. Like there's the animated series characters, but I feel like Scarecrow is almost more like Batman Begins Scarecrow than animated series Scarecrow. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, they like, that was the cool thing about this game to begin with, is that, you know, one, it wasn't, I mean, it's a licensed game, obviously, but it wasn't trying to coincide with the release of a movie or a comic story or anything like that. So they were able to delay it a couple times to like polish it. So that helped a lot. But then the other thing, like you said, Angelo, like this is the Rocksteady's version of the Batman universe. So like, yeah, like that design of Scarecrow has never been done anywhere, where he has like this glove with like hypodermic needles on it, sort of like a chemical version of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Like that's never been done in any of the comics. And yeah, like a lot of the character designs are very much their own thing. And then Joker is kind of like an amalgamation of classic Joker and
animated series. Yeah.
No. Well, that, but also the Dark Knight Heath Ledger Joker, because he doesn't have the scars, but the smile definitely
Keeps
like
going.
the paint. Yeah, like it goes far enough up where it's definitely an homage to that. So yeah, it's definitely their own thing. Now later on, like I really didn't like their designs for like Robin. Like I think he's too old, like too old and too buff. And again, like I'm back in 2009, I was all for sexy nurse Harley, but now I'm like, you know what? I really would have preferred just classic Harley. Like I don't need that from that character. Same thing with like, super sexy Poison Ivy, like whatever. But
I think it fits Poison Ivy a little bit better, though, because she's supposed to be like alluring and
she's supposed to be like an enchantress type of thing.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It kind of makes sense.
Yeah. But I think I prefer pinup girl Poison Ivy to Playboy model Poison Ivy, if that makes any sense.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what, you can have a good mix of like, I think the real like putting herself out there in a way is supposed to be more like the Catwoman type, right? Like she's supposed to be the pour on the heavy syrup seductress.
Right.
So you don't need two of those. One is enough, and then I see what you're saying. I got you.
Yeah. And I take a issue with like some of the designs, and my thing, and this was true again in 2009. I don't like the fact that the camera is as zoomed in as it is, and also that Batman kind of always moves with like he has a rod shoved up his ass,
very stiff.
Like he's very stiff, even when he runs. Like he doesn't really have that like forward momentum. That's throughout all four of those games.
He's got a lot of armor on. He's got, try moving with that much armor.
He actually reminds me of those bodybuilders that have taken so many steroids and put on so much muscle that they don't move right.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah. But still a phenomenal game. So if you've never played Arkham Asylum, I highly recommend it. Like I said, it is my favorite one in the series, and it made me realize I'm ready. I'm ready for a new Batman game. I didn't think that I was, but it's been 5 years since Arkham Knight, and there's been a lot of rumblings about a new Batman game coming out. I do think minor like kind of spoilers, vague spoilers for Arkham Knight. Based on the way that game ends, you can't do a sequel. You'd really have to do like a prequel or reboot. So, and I would rather a reboot than a prequel. So I'm hoping that's what it ends up being, because there's another way that you can go with it, but I'm not a fan of that. So, but without, spoiling the end of Arkham Knight. Anyway, last thing, and I'm just going to go briefly into this. I played all the way through The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
And I know people want to hear what I think about it, because like I really enjoyed The Last of Us, but I definitely had a lot of criticisms on the gameplay of it. I dared to have criticisms on the gameplay of it. But
bold choice, sir.
Well, and the thing that was really frustrating about, because I watched a lot of reviews of Last of Us Part 2 because I wanted one piece of information, one goddamn piece of information that nobody would comment on. And I will tell you this, if you were on the fence about playing this game, it plays so much better than the first game. That is the main thing that I wanted from a sequel.
Yeah.
Everything about it just feels so much better. The stealth feels like way better. Like I feel like I had way more options for the encounters. Honestly, like the human encounters in this game are some of the most thrilling things that I've done in a video game in years.
Oh, I believe it.
Unlike the first game where I would kind of like try to do almost all stealth because I couldn't stand the way that the guns felt.
Yeah.
Here, I would go stealth as long as I could, and invariably things would pop off. And when they would pop off, I would just go with it. And it's really cool to just like, okay, now I'm like I would even have like contingency plans. So it's like, all right, I'm going to set these trip mines here. I'm not going to, but I'm going to fall back to here if something happens. Let me go around here, take out these guys. Oh, someone got spotted. Let me run around here. And then they go boom.
Right.
Which is really satisfying. Or sometimes it would be like, you know what? This just doesn't look like I can stealth it. I'm just going to go ahead and go hard, but I'm going to start things off by someone blowing themselves up, and then I'll go from there. And also there are a lot of times that you can come out of stealth and then kill a couple people and then run and go back into stealth and then start it all over again. And all of that, it transitions really well. It's really excellent. downside is that I think all of the stuff with the infected is boring as hell. Like, because there's not
It seemed that
really,
way. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't do much to change it. And this time around, you do have encounters where there's humans and infected in the same space, which they never did in the first game.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there were limitations on the PS3.
Absolutely.
But it only happens like twice.
Yep.
And every other time that I was just dealing with infected, I was like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
I you know, and also like straight up, it doesn't follow its own rules sometimes. There were plenty of times when clickers saw me.
I noticed
that
I
was not
flat out
okay.
Noticed that. I watched the playthrough I was watching of the game because I watched through the entire thing. The playthrough I watched of the game, I remember the guy was stealthed down, just sitting, didn't move, and just a clicker looked right at him and just was like, "There they are," and I was like. But that isn't that the whole thing that if you don't move or anything, they don't know where you are. I don't remember. Yeah.
No, that's the whole thing about the clickers.
That's what I thought.
Because in a situation where there's the runners and the clickers, you need to take the runners out first because they'll see you.
Yeah.
But then once they're gone, then you don't have to worry about being behind cover. You just have to make sure you're not making too much noise.
Right.
And then you can slowly take the clickers out.
Right.
So little things like that. There's also some parts with human characters where it's like, oh, okay, so that person can just kill me in one hit, apparently. That or this person all of a sudden can take like a bajillion bullets to the face because they're beefy.
And
okay.
They all, from what I saw of somebody playing it, the humans also looked like they all had brain damage, like the way they behaved. Like they just would straight up just not see you sometimes. I'm like, what? And I don't know if that's video games, because I know video games do a lot of this, like cone of vision is really like everybody has a little bit, like your peripheral's pretty good usually,
right,
on a lot of people, but then like in video games, it kind of have like a tunnel vision thing for the NPCs.
See, and I don't feel so for me to enjoy stealth in video games, I like the NPCs to be a little bit stupid.
Yeah.
Because I think they need to be here.
It felt excessive, is what I'm saying. From what I saw, it felt like they were extra stupid.
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
At least not the way that I played it. But what I will say is that their awareness was way higher than I thought it should have been, where it's like, so I had the option set to where it actually gave me like a little bit of like an alert, and like basically like as they were getting more aware of me, like the cone kind of like expands a little bit. That's not by default, but you can really tweak this game a lot how you want to tailor it.
Okay.
Right.
And so I had that set up, and it's like there would be times where they would start to notice me where like they were like across the map and just sort of looking in my direction, not really. And I was like, there's no way in that situation you would see me or you would notice me, right? And it just like little things like that I didn't care for. And also when things do pop off, they tend to be crack shots, which I really hated. Because I still, and this is just, I just have to make peace with this. I still am of the belief that if you're playing a game that's 20 years after the apocalypse, there shouldn't be this many people with this many guns and bullets, right? Like I fully believe that the gameplay of The Last of Us should be almost all melee, bows and arrows, and occasionally you get a gun. And when somebody has a gun, you're like, oh shit, I need to be very careful because this person has a gun. And maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe I'm vastly underestimating the number of guns and bullets in the world. But
as a man who knows a little bit about guns and bullets, I would say this: you can load your own shells. You can make your own ammo.
Yeah, and you do some of that in this game.
And guns are pretty durable. Like they are heavy as shit. They are quite durable.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess the way that I would want it is either like and to its credit, this game doesn't devolve into third person shooter as many times as The Last of Us 1, where it was like there were times in that first game where I was like, why did this turn into Gears of War for this like extended section? Yeah. Like this shouldn't even be possible in this world. And that's the thing. So like one of my favorite Batman stories of all time is No Man's Land, where basically there's a massive earthquake in Gotham and the United States government declares Gotham basically not part of the United States anymore, and they just wall the place off and they don't allow people in or out anymore, and it devolves into this like tribal society ruled by gangs. And there's this one little interlude where this guy has a gun and he's holding people up and like trying to like rob them. And he goes up to this one guy and he's like, give me that apple. And he's like, there's not a bullet in that. You don't have any bullets in that gun. And he's like, how do you know? And he's like, because those bullets are way more valuable than this apple.
Yeah.
And he just like, and so then he just keeps on walking and the guy with the gun is just like, like, cause he knows he's right. And it's like, that's how I feel with like this type of thing. It's like, yeah, like this stuff should be like a lot more of a rare, and again, I could be wrong, but that's just the way that I feel about it.
Who knows? It's hard. It's hard for us to do the math on the apocalypse. We're not quite there yet. I don't know.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of stuff to say about the story. I will say just overall, I really enjoy The Last of Us 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like it overall better than the first game, at least in terms of world building and dialogue, like writing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I really enjoy the writing.
Of 2 better than 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I admit I differ from you on that. I think
what I've learned, and we're either going to do a full on spoiler cast, or we're just going to do like a spoiler discussion at the end of next episode. I'm not sure which one yet.
Right.
And I know that like what I've come to realize is sort of like my thoughts on Nier. The reason that I differ with so many people on Last of Us Part 2 is the way that I think about these characters. Because I do not have the same opinion of the characters from the first game that most people do. Especially moving into the second game. So
yeah, that'll be an interesting discussion. Actually, I'm actually really excited to talk to you about that. Yeah, because So here's the thing, though. I want to make it clear. I actually really like the story of it too. I just don't. Yeah. I don't quite like it as much as I like 1. I don't like the way it's told, and so I don't think that this should be a spoiler. I think that you should know this going in. It tells a dual narrative. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I don't like the way that it is framed. I think the way that it's laid out was a big mistake. Yeah, they made some choices, and that's. Yeah, I don't know. There's bits and pieces of just like when I watched the game, just gameplay wise, I was like immediately like, yeah, this is not for me. This is just not for me.
Yeah.
One, I was immediately like, okay, and I want to make it clear that I love how brutal it is. Like that is right up my alley.
That stuff didn't really bother me at all. I thought that this game was going to be really difficult to play right now.
Yeah.
It ended up not being, although I will say that like I have had so many dreams about this game. Like it has stuck with me.
That's
and not the violence part of it, more of just like the scavenging in like the apocalypse type thing. And honestly, like after seeing the way that people have acted over the last like 6 months, I kind of understand where we get to The Last of Us Part 2. Right. Because there's certain things where you're like, there's nobody like helping people here. And then you realize, oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I get it now.
My thing that turned me off of actually playing it, because when I went in to go watch it, my entire thing was like, I'm really hoping that this isn't what I think it's going to be, and I'm really hoping I can actually like get around some of my own personal bullshit and be like, okay, I think I can handle this. I think I can play it, because I love the stealth. I love the way it looked. I loved a lot of how the encounters played out. What immediately turned me off, I was like, first of all, jump scares and bullshit ones at that. I was like, okay, we're doing this a lot, and I don't know if I can do this. And I did not expect how open worldish it was. It's not.
See, it's not.
It's more of a hub thing. But it's only that, and that was my big complaint, is that it opens up for one part and then it immediately closes back down. So and weird. I missed something because I thought, I'll get that when I come back here, but you never come back there. Yeah.
Now I will say, I love that part. Like my favorite parts of this game are the parts where I'm actually like looking around the environment and like finding items, and also like because that's where all of the like environmental storytelling is, and like you get these little stories about like, oh shit, like, you know, like how the world was or how things were crumbling, and I found so many cool things that I could have easily missed, including weapons and upgrades and stuff like that, where I was like, it was very rewarding, and also like that's where you get like a lot of the really good like dialogue between the characters and stuff
Right.
like that, which again, like, I think that like the banter is really good with the characters, and the game is weakest when you're only playing as Ellie by herself. I think there's too many long stretches where she's by herself,
Right.
and it's like,
when you
there's
don't,
nothing for her to play off of.
yeah, when she doesn't have anybody with her, it's a little off-putting. But I don't know. I think the immediate part where I recognized that game was not for me was immediately when you get to like right before the open world part, and there was a part where you had to plug some generators in, and I was like, "Fuck everything about this!" I hated it. I was like, if the game kept going with these kind of puzzles, I'm like, I'm out. I can't do this. That's
so funny because like the first like really big dissenting review on YouTube was literally like complaining that there weren't enough environmental puzzles.
Oh my god, I hate environmental puzzles. I hate shit like that. It's so boring. It's so bland and dumb. I get why you put it, and that's a me thing. That it's not,
Yeah.
I understand why you put it in the game. And if it was something I really was into, I would definitely deal with it. I've dealt with it before, but most of the time I just end up going, why are we doing this? I just want to do the stealth and kill the things. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm here to play the game for. And
yeah, and I mean, I will say that like that stuff isn't, I don't think it's as prevalent as in the first game, but there are way too many instances of we need to go here. Oh shit, we just fell, and now we've got to go the long way around. Like that happens like way too many times to the point. And that's the thing. Like I spent 33 hours on this game, and I really feel that I should have finished it at the 25 hour mark. There's a couple things that I was thinking about, like story wise, where I was like, could you have removed this? And I don't think that you can remove any of the story stuff, but there are definitely full on encounters or impediments to your forward progress that they could have taken out and easily trimmed 8 hours out of this, and it would have been perfect.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. There's a weird pacing thing with the game, just in that sense, where
but I think the actual pacing is pitch perfect in the sense of here's a quiet part where I'm like finding items and like getting in like environmental storytelling and dialogue, and then here's this really tense encounter and I'm depleting all of my like ammo and supplies, and then let me take a breather, and like the way it shifts, like all that stuff is great. It's not, for me, it's not pacing as much as it is padding.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
No, that totally makes sense. You're absolutely right. You kind of nail it. Yeah, it's a lot of that.
I have seen a lot of people complaining about the pacing, and I don't think that the pacing is the problem.
Yeah, I think you nailed it earlier when you said there's a problem with the way the story is told, like overall.
Yeah,
and I wholeheartedly agree. We'll get
deeper into that another time. But I will just say, like, if I inform purchasing decisions for anybody, know that I had serious issues with the gameplay of the first one, and they are not present here. Like, I think it is a huge improvement on the actual act of playing the game. Now, your mileage may vary on how you find the story and the characters and stuff like that. I'm more positive on them than a lot of people. But I think just like those encounters are amazing. Right. And I really do recommend the game. And if that's what you were wondering about, like, because like I said, I could not find any information on how this thing actually plays. This video game, like no one at IGN or GameSpot or the other ones like would comment on how the game played. So it plays really well.
Yes. The first YouTuber that somebody recommended to me talking about The Last of Us, that was the first thing they talked about.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, I think the YouTubers are outdoing the pros when it comes to some of that stuff right now.
Sometimes. I was able to make it 5 minutes into Angry Joe's review, and I was like,
I don't really like Angry Joe.
I was going to say, I'm not an Angry
game.
Joe fan. Yeah.
I'm not either, but like, I was still curious, and I was like, okay, no, I can't watch this. And then, like I said, the first real dissenting opinion, I mean, he really he didn't talk much about the gameplay. He was just railing about the lack of environmental puzzles and like it. And also, like, his big thing was like the brutality and everything. Like, he just wasn't, that didn't bother me. Like if anything, like I think because it doesn't linger on it. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. Like it is. I mean, it's very brutal. And like if you want to spend the time to like really focus in on like the carnage after an encounter, then yeah, you're going to see some fucked up stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't spend a lot of time lingering on that. Sometimes I'll be like, pick up items, I'll be like, oh, that person's face is gone. And to me, that just makes it more impactful of just how, you know, how far as a human being you have fallen at this point. And not just you, but just like humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if anything, it adds to the world building and storytelling, but not in a glorifying way, if that makes any sense.
Right.
You know, I got this weird thing where it's like, no, you know what? I mean, I'm going to say that for
okay.
spoiler.
We'll say that for the spoiler cast.
It's more of a gameplay thing, but it's more of a nitpick that I have about story. So yeah, I'll save that. So yeah, that's all I've got.
Okay. I don't have a whole hell of a lot. I have like 2 things. So this will be the shortest thing that I've ever had. And that's the kiss of death right there. There we go.
Yep. Yeah. Now we're going to go for like 45 minutes.
Exactly. Sorry in advance. I shouldn't have jinxed it. I'm really sorry. But I actually did play Skyrim Special Edition. I actually played the game. I didn't just mod it. I stopped modding it. I'm not kidding. I just went, nope, we're done now. It's time to play the game. And I did. And I started playing it. So I was like, okay, what have I never done before? And I was like, I've never done a full blown, like actual, just be a magic user, like full blown mage. I've never done it before. Just throw fireballs, do all the stuff. And the reason is because I always like to mess around with certain combat mods that make it to where like enemies,
the combat's actually good.
Yeah, combat's actually good, and it's weighty, and like when the enemies do close the gap on you, you are fucked. So if you don't kill them by the time they get to you, you might be dead if you don't have a sword and you're a mage. So good luck with that. So like every time I tried it, like, and I'm playing no armor, like where I have to wear robes all the time because it gives you a bunch of stat boosts and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And somehow, like, those first couple things were really hard. And one mod that I did find to help with this was there's a ward spell. It's basically like block magic, but like the mod actually made it to where it was like, hey, shouldn't this do this with physical things too? Shouldn't it just act like a shield? And I was like, yes, it should. So it makes the combat a lot of fun because you can just like block arrows from a distance. It's like you're force pushing them away. It's great.
Nice.
And I found, let's see, basically the whole reason like I stuck with it is I found like a series of like character building mods, and not like actual like appearance stuff. Like I found that stuff too, obviously, but like I found one is called Imperious, where it adds like a bunch of like traits that are specific to races. Like your whatever race you pick has certain different powers, and they're way better than the vanilla. It's not just like this one has plus 15 in this stat, and that's all you get in vanilla Skyrim, and maybe a power or something. This one has like if you're an Imperial at level 10, you get to add 100 to one stat and then drop another by 100, some stat you're not using. I was like, that's interesting. Okay, let's try this thing out. The other ones, it's the same guy that made all these, so they all play together really nicely. There's one called Ordinator, which changes all the perks around and just makes character building amazing. Like there are useless stats in Skyrim. Like Speechcraft is useless in Skyrim. All it does is give you better prices. But here, if you build up your Speechcraft, you can be a fucking bard class and just go in there and play the lute and distract all the enemies while your follower kills them. It's fucking neat. So like you get a lot of stuff like that. There's he also did one called Winter Sun, which basically, like we were talking about religions last episode, or however many episodes that was. Yeah. I don't remember. But basically you worship like a god, and like every time you pray to that god, like it gives you certain stat boosts, and like your affinity goes up. And as like I'm a follower of Julianos, and so he's the magic guy. He's the magic god, and he gives me all the like as my stuff goes up, all my spells cost less. So like I have all these things playing off each other. It's pretty neat, man. I'm having a great time. Like I'm doing stuff that I never even seen in the game before. There's one specific quest I never got the trigger before because I played through as an Imperial this time. I never played it as an Imperial. It's kind of interesting to not be a Stormcloak. Usually I'm a Stormcloak. And I was playing through, and I never got this one thing to trigger in Solitude, where you go and like fight the Wolf Queen. And I was like, I got that. I was like, oh, I've never seen this before. I played this game I don't know how many times. It's never triggered. This is amazing. I was so happy. But I played through like College of Winterhold, played Thieves Guild, did a bunch of stuff. It's Skyrim. I still like Skyrim. Having a good time doing that.
How many hours are you on this playthrough? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to check my save, and if I boot it up on the computer, it'll freeze everything. So we're not doing that. Let's see.
89 hours.
All the hours.
I mean, I've played it
one.
Probably since the last recording, almost nonstop. Like I was pretty much,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
189 hours.
minus the 8 or 10 hours that I put into the other game that I played, Halo. The Combat Evolved.
There we go.
Yeah,
really
there it is. I played the original Halo. I'm going to talk about it because this episode will come out after games my mom found, and I'm not going to talk about everything they're going to talk about. I'm sure. Halo Combat Evolved is pretty good. I played the remastered version.
Yeah, you kind of have to at this point.
You kind of have to at this point for a lot of reasons. One, if you want to download the original Halo Combat Evolved on your Xbox One console with backwards compatibility, you cannot. Only the remastered edition is available. I learned that a little too late.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, oh, for sure, that's got to be on there. That was like their flagship title. Nope. Only the anniversary edition is available. You can switch to classic mode, but from what I've heard, the classic mode on it is based on like a bad port of the game, so a lot of the textures look really bad.
It's mostly you're not going to play it that way. It's mostly a neat thing. Like, ooh, if I push this button, it looks like old Halo.
You can go back to it, and it's neat. It is neat to like look at like how the old graphics were, but like the remaster like makes a lot of shit that was almost unplayable and so hard to go back to, like actually tolerable, because the levels in Halo like are so samey. And I remember having this criticism way back in the day.
The library.
Even I know the library, and I've never played through that game. So.
The library is almost impossible to navigate unless you're playing the remaster, because they set up arrows on the floor. They're like, go this way, down this tunnel, go this way, like pointing everywhere on the floor. And I was like, thank God, because I'd have never found this. There's even a bigger level, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically you're going around. I want to say it's Assault on the Control Room, but it might be the one right after that or before it. Not 100%. But you're going around the Halo itself, and you're going from outside, and then you go into this inner part, and every single room looks exactly the same. And if you didn't have those arrows pointing on the floor, you would get lost, because I would just you just start backtracking. It's
Is that called like the cartographer or something like that?
No, I think the
Silent Cartographer.
Silent Cartographer, I believe, is the level before this one. I don't know, man. I don't know. I remember this.
Bungie is really good about making those weird names that stick in your head. They really are.
But I didn't play it. That's what
everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that weird gamer osmosis, and that stuff. That stuff doesn't leave my brain. But memories of relationships that are important to me. Nope, don't got room for that.
I mean, I don't remember a whole lot of everything. Yeah. But yeah, like that level, I remember, even like I said, when I was playing this as a sophomore in high school, I believe this was 2001 when this came out.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sophomore in high school. I remember being like the one guy in the room that was like, this entire stage is just a bunch of rooms that look the fucking same. Like, this is lazy. This is lazy fucking game design. And everybody's like, no, shut up, man. It's awesome. It's great. And I remember one guy even specifically going, you know why that is, right? Because they worked on the Halo. If you were working on the Halo, you wanted to know where you were at all times. So they made everything look the same. I was like, that's their shitty lore excuse for it to look the fucking same. That's bullshit.
But that's a really good point that I was just going to mention is that I find it so interesting that Halo of all first person shooters is oddly that game where the lore is so important to people. Like people legit love that story, and it's interesting to me because like I think that the character designs in Halo are boring as shit.
Yep.
Really?
I think Master Chief is a really boring design. I think the Covenant suck. Like, I don't like any of the designs for the Covenant, never have.
Hot takes.
Even the naming conventions for the Covenant, I think, is like the most boring, hackneyed
all right.
stuff.
I think the naming conventions are actually pretty cool. They have a cool naming convention.
They've ruined it for like every other game. Like, every game uses Grunt and Brute and
Okay.
Elite.
Oh, okay,
and,
that stuff.
That is true.
yeah.
I think Halo ruined a lot of things because everybody copied it so much, and I think
Absolutely.
the aesthetic is one of those things too.
Yes.
I think in hindsight, the aesthetic is tiring, but before that, the only other game that really looked like it was Marathon, which was made by the same company.
Very true.
So
I like the look of the environments and the tech. I think the weapon designs are really cool.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think when I saw Master Chief, I was like, he looks like a really overwrought version of the Doom guy. Like, that's literally what I thought. Like Doom guy from the box art, right? Like, or multiplayer Doom, not necessarily like, yeah, whatever. And then, like I said, the aliens I just think are like, put me to sleep boring. I'm sorry. Like it has never done anything for me.
Yeah.
Everything else I think is like really evocative and interesting.
I will say this: the music in the original Halo is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it gets you pumped.
good.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I forgot how good this music is.
the
Like,
first 3 games have phenomenal music.
oh, they're so good. It's
Yeah.
like it's just like, damn, did fucking Genesis do this soundtrack? This is amazing right now. Like, it's so good. But yeah, the writing is. I'm not a Halo lore guy either. Flat out. Like, and if I'm just going off the games, this first game, like, you're just like, if I knew nothing and I read no books, this story is so lame. It is so boring. It is just by the numbers. Like, there's a big bad thing. We got to go kill it. And Master Chief's like ultra bro dude guy. He's gonna do it. He's the best. He's the best at what he does. And like, Cortana's like fine, but she's like, I don't know. She's a little lame herself. I don't know. I know they sort of fleshed this out in the later ones, and it's a little bit more interesting. Like, I remember 2 like very fondly, but I know a lot of people don't. I know most people that hate 2 hate the ending, and I didn't give. Again, I'm not a lore guy. I loved the multiplayer of Halo. That's why I enjoyed playing.
2 is also really short.
Yes.
The first player, the single player was really short, but boy, did I get my mileage out of the multiplayer for that.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I did not. You can definitely complain about the single player campaign because it was short, but at the same time, boy, that
short
multiplayer
and
was the best.
cliffhanger.
Yes, short and cliffhanger.
Yeah. But that was the best multiplayer.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think it was better than Halo 1. But
by leaps and bounds, I think. But as not a lore guy, I don't care about that. Like, yeah, I really enjoyed Halo 2 a lot. And I actually, in playing this one again, like, I know this one's fairly short. It's like, what, 10, 12 hours, maybe somewhere around that. But there are just levels that feel like they're never going to end because, like I said, you're just going through the same area over and over again. There's even one entire level where you go through an old level, like, in reverse. And I was like, guys, this is so, like, if somebody did this today, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, that you just made an entire level out of just backtracking. Like, I mean, the final level's great, except for, like, there's one thing. I'll talk about that on another thing. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I've never been so angry at a final encounter in my entire life.
But Halo is a combination. It's almost, oh boy, I can't believe I am about to say this. It's almost kind of like Harry Potter in that it takes a lot of established tropes and combines them into one thing.
Very true.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
You can look at Halo and go, oh, that's from Warhammer 40K. That's from Doom. That's from Marathon. That's from that's from Unreal. The Needler rifle, is what was that gun called in Unreal? It was almost the exact same thing where it shot like semi-sentient crystal shards.
Yeah,
that was the lure in Unreal that like homed in on their enemies. And it's like, that's the Needler. You ripped that off. It just holds the ammo in a different way now.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, it's fine. It came together to be something completely different,
right?
When you mash it all together that way, to the point where even if I could see how all the ingredients in the sausage, I didn't care.
Yeah,
right. So,
and I know I sound like I'm being extremely harsh on it. I still had a really good time playing that game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I really did.
One of these days, I'm going to play through all of those games on the Master Chief Collection because I've only played Halo 3 through 5.
Really,
I say only. I mean that's half the series.
I played the opposite of you. I played to 3 and then I stopped. So that's interesting.
Well, because I didn't have an Xbox until the 360, and I bought into the Halo 3 hype, and I was like, okay, that was fun. And then since then, I've just been like, okay, I'll play a new Halo.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I know a lot of people hate Halo 5, but I liked it because it at least had character. Like, I really enjoyed, like, the Spartan team that's going after Master Chief, because they were people that had personality, and, you know, motivation. So I found that part of it interesting.
Yeah,
and you know, I'm well, obviously it'll be on Game Pass, but I'm day one on Halo Infinite because I really want to see what that game is. And I do, you know, like, I'm not a huge first person shooter fan, but when I get into one, like, I get into it pretty big, and I'm looking forward to Halo being the next one. I mean, I am going to go back to Doom Eternal at some point before the end of the year, but Halo Infinite is definitely like, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that when it comes out.
Also, a fun bit for the finale here is I may have figured out why I'm halfway decent at first-person shooters, but I hate playing them. And it is because I am so on edge when I play these games. I'm so afraid that something's going to pop up right in front of me that, like, my reaction time is, like, second to none. Like, it impresses the shit out of me. Like, as soon as that little dot turns red, you've never seen somebody pull the triggers as fast as me. Like, I was amazed by it. Like, I was like, holy shit, like, that, I don't know how I did that. Like,
that's exactly what I was saying about Doom Eternal, because that's actually exhausting. Like, you are burning brain energy to put yourself and stay in that state.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
There was a point where I remember I went down to have a cigarette in the middle of, I want to say it was like the second to last level, and it was getting into the flood stuff. It was right after the library. There you go. It's right after the library, and I walked downstairs. I was like, I'm just heavy breathing really hard. Like, my heart's racing. Like, I really need a break. I really need to go unwind for a second before I go to the next thing here. But yeah, I enjoyed it overall. It was a fun little thing to go back to. I don't know if I'd want to revisit the old graphics. I would always like stop and look at the old graphics while I was playing it, but then like I'd very quickly go, okay, let's go back to what it looks like now.
Turns out Justin is who you want to have when the zombie apocalypse kicks off.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I'm so fucking terrified of everything. Well, maybe not, because if you pop up in front of me, I will shoot you and I not feel bad. So,
I mean, if you're walk in front of somebody with a gun that's loaded and aimed, that's on you.
Yeah,
you should not do that.
Well, if you just like walk into the room and like he's already like, you know, like,
oh yeah, instantly. I would not hesitate. I'm not gonna lie.
All right. Well, I'm not going to hesitate to lower the cage and step into the ring for Video Game Cage Match.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest spectacle on earth. This will be one hellacious ride tonight. This is a 15-foot high steel cage, ladies and gentlemen. Who will triumph? Who will prevail? And who will realize their dream?
Justin, I'm going to turn this over to you because you picked this one. I forget who actually booked it, but let's keep this tight. We're not going to do a 15-minute filibuster on Silent Hill Downpour, goddammit.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest because if I didn't get it out of there immediately, I was going to forget all my points, and then somebody was going to bring it up again, and I'd be like, I've forgotten everything. What was my argument? And it's bullshit, so I had to do it. Sorry. Okay, this is short. All right. I love the fuck out of KOTOR.
Wait, what's the match and who booked it?
It's KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic for the original Xbox versus Tales of Vesperia. All right, it was booked by Xavier Krieger. And do you want me to start this off? Would you like me to start here, or do you want to?
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Okay,
yeah.
I will start. Okay, I will start. I'm going to say this: I love KOTOR. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Okay, maybe not. I love that game. It's a great game. One of the best Star Wars stories I think that to ever come out. It has space fucking samurais. It has goddamn Sith in their prime. It has one of like the best like twists in all of video games, in all of Star Wars, really. Like, I mean, it's not Luke, I am your father or whatever, but it's a pretty good twist. It's a pretty good twist.
I think it might be a better twist than that, honestly. Like, once I found out what it was, like once someone told me, I was like, that's amazing.
It's pretty good. It's pretty fucking good.
Okay, I don't think it beats Luke, I am your father, but I definitely think it beats, Leia's my sister.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
But it's got great writing. It did a lot for BioWare. It did a lot for, it made me want to buy like an Xbox because like I just went on to talk about Halo for however long, but Halo didn't really make me want to get one of those. It was the BioWare games that made me actually want to get an Xbox. That being said, I don't know anything about Tales of Vesperia, but I do know this. Everything in Tales of Vesperia actually happened. KOTOR didn't happen. It's not canon.
Oh, okay.
Fuck you.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Fuck Disney's like, no, that didn't happen. No.
Some mouse ate all the books.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. No. So
Yeah.
how I don't even see how this is a match actually, because like what KOTOR comes out of doesn't even come out to the ring. It doesn't even show up. Just gets counted out. That's how I see this playing out. Tales of Vesperia gets a bye here. That's their opponent doesn't show up to the ring. Doesn't
All right.
exist.
I don't want to be that guy, but in defense of Disney, like getting rid of the extended universe canon,
I understand.
Like, well, no. Like, it's not that it's gone forever.
Right.
They're just like reintroducing it where it makes sense.
Okay, I know. I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, Julian, it didn't happen.
It did. Okay, so this match can't exist.
Can't
because,
exist.
Because there is no KOTOR.
I don't know what KOTOR is. What is that? What is that?
All right, that's fair. Angelo, where are you coming down on this? Oh, let me get my little. I need to get my scoreboard up. You can go on.
Oh, okay.
Angelo. Yeah.
I was just.
Did we lose you?
Uh-oh. Did he get... Oh, he's sneezing.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those sneezes that won't come. I hate that.
It took me a second to realize what was happening.
I'm like, it's right here, and I'm like, come on, just kick over. I'm ready. Let's go. Didn't happen. Very disappointed.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, man.
Oh man. So yeah. I love Star Wars a lot. Especially the original trilogy, right?
Right.
Like there is freaking strong family. Like my entire family loves those movies. The first three movies. I grew up on them.
It's crazy. They actually happened.
They did. They did. Magical flying ninjas with laser swords exist. It's amazing.
Mind blowing.
Side note, another one of those like things that's just like kind of a combination of a bunch of different like samurai movies and old school space operas like Flash Gordon and all these things in a stew, and it comes out to be something completely different anyway. But BioWare RPGs and we just don't click. I
forgot why you're not on this show anymore.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you know what? I watched somebody play through which one was it? Mass Effect 2, I think it was. And I was like, okay, I totally understand why people like this game. Like, I totally get it. I still don't want to actually do it. Because I don't want to sit there and like make the story decisions and pick who's going to be in the party. With somebody else making those decisions, the anxiety about those decisions is completely removed.
You're one. Okay, you're one of those. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The suicide mission would kill you.
Oh yeah, I totally.
The suicide mission would kill you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. And they knew exactly what they were doing. Oh, I played this game before. I'm going to do this, and this. And anyway, I don't want to spoil the things, but they lost some stuff. They didn't lose any people that they took on the mission, but they may have taken a little bit longer than they should have to go on the mission.
Sure.
So that didn't go so well. Anyway, it's just they don't click with me, and it's because I want to just be told a story, and Vesperia does that. Vesperia says, okay, sit down, here's the story. Who you take with you doesn't have a bearing on how the story plays out. And every single cutscene, your entire party is there. It doesn't. So, in my opinion, it's like, if KOTOR shows up, it's like, well, you got to pick 3 people. And those are the only 3 people that get to come into the ring. And Tales of Vesperia is like, nah, man, bring the whole squad. That's it. We got a lady who flies on a dragon. We got this. We got that. It's like everybody's here. So they kind of just it's like an unfair tag team where it's like like a ratio of 3-1, and they just beat the crap out of them. So
All right,
that's what I'm going with.
And it's a story that actually happened.
It is. It helps.
It does help.
All right. Well, before I state mine, I just got to say a couple things. I've never played Tales of Vesperia at all. I have tried and failed to get into Knights of the Old Republic multiple times. I have started this game almost as many times as I've tried to play Fallout 3 and just failed to do so.
It happened.
But I'm going with KOTOR for a couple reasons. One, Tales of Vesperia has a wolf in the party, and I think when you put an animal in your RPG party, I'm out. I think Red 13 fucking
that is
sucks.
best.
I when there's an animal on the squad, I am so bored. But more importantly, guys,
he's the goodest boy. He is such a good boy.
More important than that, in Knights of the Old Republic has the Force, y'all. Okay, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention lately, but you can do anything with the Force. Have you seen the new trilogy?
No.
You can heal wounds that are fatal. You can astral project from like galaxy, like across the galaxy. You can teleport actual physical things across time and space, which I don't know how that works, but you can do it now. So you can just do whatever you want to your opponent. So I'm going with KOTOR.
Okay, I have a question. Can the Force get you? Can you Force write yourself back into the canon? Can you do that?
Yes.
I need proof.
Go watch Star Wars Episode 9. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
All right, I guess I need to watch that then. I gave up after one of them. I don't remember which.
All right. Well, we've got Tales of Vesperia in the lead, but as always, we are not the be-all and end-all of Video Game Cage Match, because our lovely listeners, in addition to booking the matches, are also our referees. Now, we do have a submission from... wait, hold on. Did I? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We don't have one from Adam Bradbury. So we're going to go straight on to pixelbit.com. So I'll grab this first one from San Andreas, who says, Tales of Vesperia wins easily. Beautiful anime graphics that still held up when it was re-released on current systems, a thoughtful story, good combat, and a consistently likable cast of characters. The playable characters had good chemistry and were one of my favorite playable casts. The bad guys, especially Duke and Jaeger, were quite villainous, and even supporting characters like Don Whitehorse were memorable. The standout was Yuri, voiced by Troy Baker, but this was one of the best localizations of a Japanese game I've seen.
Yeah.
I do really want to play it.
All those things are true.
Huh.
Yeah.
I should definitely give that.
I've not played a Tales game since that first one on the PS1, but I do want to play this area.
That was a bad place to start. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled with it.
Yeah.
After that, we have Case Curran, and he says, Stat Wars, KOTOR. I read that how he wrote it because he said "fuck me" earlier. So I don't forget, Casey. I don't forget. Stat Wars KOTOR, no question. It's my favorite game ever, and everything the new trilogy should have been. I can't count how many times I've played this game. Also, much more culturally significant. Put BioWare on the map and made every game put in moral choices.
Yeah, that's fair.
Didn't BioWare make Baldur's Gate, though? Or do I have that wrong?
They did, but that was much more niche. You can't... I mean, this was console, so like it brought that type of RPG to whole new demographic.
Very true.
Actually, and Neverwinter Nights, too, which is one of the few BioWare games that I actually really like.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did. They were.
It's. I would say that the Knights of the Old Republic is the Final Fantasy VII of BioWare.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
That I can see that. I could see that where they were making good games that a lot of people like, but that one was the one that people really noticed. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Okay, I'll buy it.
Mm.
Angelo, do you want to take this next one from Super Step?
Super Step, yes. Cage match. I have played far too little of KOTOR to have an informed opinion, but I've never played anything of Tales of Vesperia. I'm going to vote for Tales of Vesperia because that game is not attached to a fan base that annoys the living fuck out of me.
Yeah, that's fair. I kind of like don't like to say that I'm a Star Wars fan anymore.
Yeah.
I still love it, but I'm also I think I prefer Star Trek as I get older, but not current Star Trek. I don't like dark, edgy Trek.
He has a little addendum. He says, he has an asterisk after that little statement.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Star Wars fans in general, maybe KOTOR fan specific base is fine, but my God, has more general SW peanut gallery soured me on that franchise. So he wanted to be very specific about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the modern fans annoy me, if that makes any sense. But like I can't get mad.
Modern sci-fi fans are annoying me because they don't seem to understand what sci-fi has always been, and them complaining about social justice issues in sci-fi as if that's never been a thing when it's always been a thing, and usually the focus of sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can complain about the ham-fisted delivery sometimes, and I think that's legit. But the issues, bring them up. That's what this is all about.
They've always been there. Yeah.
But I think. Well, I don't want to defend it because I don't want to get into it. But at the same time, I think sometimes it is done in a way where it's just like, that's just not clever or creative. And the ham-fistedness.
Yeah. That's straight up why I prefer the Orville to the new Star Trek stuff, because the Orville handles those things, but it's not like, hey, look at this issue that we're putting in front of your face. It's like, hey, here's this thing and we're going to talk about it, but it's not like all that, it's not the be all and end all of this character. Like, that's not all that they are, or that's not the entire.
Like, it's there.
Yeah, it's not the entire plot, right? Like, it's part of the story and part of the world building, but not necessarily like the only thing that they have to say for that episode. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Also, I like the way it looks better. And I don't need my Star Trek. I don't need my Federation people to be saying fuck. I just don't. I'm sorry. I know that's really silly. I just don't need it. I don't like. Next up, we have Extrian, who says KOTOR wins for being the only Star Wars thing I actually know about. Yes, it's true. I've never seen the original or new trilogy. Saw episode 1, slept during episode 2, and honestly don't know about episode 3. So for me, KOTOR is the end-all, be-all of Star Wars canon. I regret nothing.
Okay, so to him, it exists.
Excuse me. What? What? How? No, sir. No. Okay, I'm calm now. Extrian, I think the problem here is that someone told you to start with episode 1.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Not because I think the prequels are bad movies. That's another discussion for another day. I enjoy them. But those are Star Wars movies for Star Wars fans. You need to start with A New Hope, because that is where it started, and that is a cinema classic. It's just go do that, Extrian.
All I'm going to say about the Star Wars prequels is Hayden Christensen. Let's move on to our next one. Deathman. He says KOTOR because I do actually intend to play that game one day. By the way, if you guys are going to talk spoilers, I hope you give us fair warning. I've managed to not be spoiled on KOTOR somehow all these years later. The dream lives on. That's
too late.
Cool. And we have not done that. We alluded to
a thing,
a twist,
but
we didn't say what it was.
So we're good.
Oh wow, that's cool, because when you said it, I played through the whole thing in my head. Like, okay, so I thought we were talking about it. That's
Nope. We did good. I'm
losing my mind.
Well, we are up way past your bedtime, so
it's
you're not used to doing this anymore. Let's see. Moving on over to Twitter. Let's see. We have Xavier Krieger on Twitter at Cadus Bane, who says, definitely KOTOR for me. A crew of powerful warriors led by one of the most powerful Sith or Jedi in the galaxy versus a ragtag group of kids whose biggest claim to fame is their dog that fights with a dagger in his mouth. Just wait until my character uses his dark powers to convince the Vesperia kids to tear each other apart while the KOTOR crew enjoys a few games of Pasak. That's fair.
Pasak is pretty fun. I will say that. I mean, it's too bad it doesn't exist in canon or anything.
The repeat hate is starting to get to me. He's the best boy. He's such a good boy. Come on, guys. He's a dog that fights with a dagger in his mouth. It's awesome. And he smokes a pipe.
That's pretty awesome.
Smokes a pipe.
He smokes a... Okay, I'm sold. If he's a dog that smokes, I'm in. That is my... that's great. Okay, now I'm playing Tales of Vesperia.
He has sass. He gives sass to some of the characters. He's a great dog.
Originally, I felt bad about doing this whole bit that I'm doing, and now I feel really good about it because I really want to play the dog that smokes his pipe. Anyway, Blaine Thea. He's on Twitter at Blaine Thea. And he says this about the cage match. He says, KOTOR. Anybody who picks otherwise is wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I just don't. I mean, KOTOR doesn't exist. I'm sorry. I don't know what that is.
All right, next up is Esteban Islas at Expired, who says, I've never played these games, but going to give this one to KOTOR. Big fan of the Star Wars franchise and couldn't let them go down without a fight. That's fair.
That's fair.
I still like Star Wars, as I said.
Oh, yeah.
Even after stuff.
Next up, if I'm correct, we have Jeffka, who I hate. And he has this to say about the cage match. I'm actually playing through Tales of Vesperia right now, and even though the cinematics are a little worthy, I really like the battle system and adore the characters. As much as I love Star Wars, I gotta give it to Tales. Picked right this time, Jeffka, and I hate you less now. Just a little less every time. You're doing okay, bud. We're gonna get there.
This is becoming a really competitive match.
It's surprisingly, yeah, I really did. I expected to be like the one vote for Vesperia. I'm not gonna lie.
Next up, we have new challenger John Marinkovic on Twitter at John Marinkovic, who says, as far as cage match goes, it can only be KOTOR. Only ever KOTOR. It's a perfect game for me, and to this day is the best money I have spent on any game ever. Wow. You and Casey should chat.
After that, we have Matt Jorgensen, who Julian skipped.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry, Matt.
That's okay. I picked it up for you. It's no problem. He says, cage match. Once upon a time, I would have said KOTOR, but Disney decided it didn't count. And since it's a figment of our collective imaginations, I'm going to have to give it to Tales of Vesperia. Hear that, Disney? I'm right there with you, Matt. I'm on your side.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Amazed Skitty on Twitter at Rhexes, who says, I played both. I only beat one. Tales of Vesperia will always ring a bell of enjoyment with me.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
This is getting close.
I am curious.
I think we have one left. Or no, I think we have two left.
Okay.
Because there's two responses to the tweet that you sent out earlier, Justin.
Good job, man.
First up is Bobby Bronson on Twitter at BJ Bronson, who says, KOTOR all the way.
All right.
Simple.
Short and simple.
He should hang out with Philip Becker because they're very succinct.
Yeah, indeed. They would be good friends, I think.
Yes. Let's see. And okay, help me parse this one, guys, because this comes to us from friend of the show, Mike Fallick, at Big Little Weasel. He says, not a KOTOR fan just because of the type of game it is. It's obviously the better game. Fuck the Tales games.
Ooh.
They have everything going for it. It's kind of like Pokemon. It's got cool art, wizards, but for fuck's sake, that game takes forever, which is kind of a beef I have with KOTOR 2. I'm not sure.
I think he just hates RPGs and just wants to see the cage burn down around everyone.
I think you're right. I think it just even cancels out.
It just cancels out.
Mike
like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, Mike. You should start liking RPGs.
Okay. It was close. It was a battle for sure, but you can't argue with the Force, gentlemen. The winner of this cage match is Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
Before you say that, look at the messages. Look at my boy. Look at my good boy. Look at my son smoking that pipe.
Wait, where did you put it?
Yeah,
Put it in the chat on Skype.
Oh, I don't see it.
I don't see
What?
it. It says you're typing, but it does not.
There it goes.
There it goes.
Oh, okay.
Now I see him. Oh my god, that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Nope, I am completely bored. Totally
Terrible taste.
waste of a slot.
Terrible
Waste of a
taste,
character
Julian.
slot. How many characters are in Tales of Vesperia?
Tons. I don't know.
Okay.
Tons. I don't know.
It's a lot.
Well, cause that's why, that's my thing with Final Fantasy VII. It's like Red 13 is just wasting a valuable slot in a very small cast.
He's fine. He's totally fine. You put materia on him the same way. He's as good as anybody else. That's the beauty of Final Fantasy VII, Julian. Everybody's as good as everybody else, as good as their materia is. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Shut up.
There are 7 playable characters in that game.
Okay, that's the same as Final Fantasy VII. So yeah, no, waste of a slot.
Oh no.
I'm not here for it.
Disagree. I like puppies. Puppies are good. I like to make songs.
I like them too. I just don't want them. I don't want them in my RPG party.
I don't
That's all I'm
understand. I don't understand this at all. I don't. This mentality doesn't make sense to me. This does not compute.
Well, we're not gonna solve this tonight.
We're not going to. No.
I think it's time to choose the next booking, and so I'm glad Angelo is actually here because you can weigh in on this.
Oh, okay.
We just got this new booking from Amazed Skitty at Arhexis, and he says, I feel you calling me out to suggest a cage match that it's time to settle, and it's time to settle the cage match that happens in the Pixelbit Discord, which I don't know what the fuck that is.
Okay.
We don't know what Pixelbit Discord is. But
I don't know what Discord is.
We don't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a Discord now, but I still don't know what it is.
Is this Donkey Kong Country?
He says, every few matches it comes up, we have our sides and take our stances. A franchise that has been around for years as an arcade series, only to be molded as platformers later on. The series started starring the king of the jungle, Donkey Kong.
Yup, Donkey Kong.
Which game is deserving of the title? Donkey Kong Country 2 or Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, now with Funky Mode?
Ooh.
2 eras, 2 styles. The lines will be drawn. This is what shall decide what is deserving of the Banana Horde, Banana Slamma.
This is like Don King level of promotion, and I'm very impressed with it.
Yeah, and this is the second person to make me aware of this because
it's time.
Philip also let me know of this simmering like acrimony in the Pixelbit Discord, whatever the fuck that is, about this matchup. So next time on Video Game Cage Match, we have Donkey Kong Country 2 taking on Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. And again, for stage select, I want to know heartwarming stories of video game related gifts that you have gotten from people that you love. I could really use that around this time of the year. And we will want those comments by 8:30 Central Time on July 24th. Once again, you can go to the pixelbit.com and comment in the show thread for episode 180. You can hit us up on Twitter at NWPcast and DM us there. You can also go to facebook.com/nerdswithoutpants podcast and send us a message there. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. Yes, this is a long podcast.
It is a long one.
Angelo, thank you so much for being on this 8th anniversary episode.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Always a pleasure,
it was a lot of fun.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. Always a pleasure having the listeners listen to us. Thank you for sticking around this long.
Indeed.
I think what I would like for an anniversary gift is if you haven't rated and reviewed the podcast yet, consider rating and reviewing the podcast. Especially writing a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, because I would like to read those on the air. We've had one in 2020, which seems about right considering what this year has been. But I would like some more. That would be nice. That would make me happy.
Wait, didn't we have 2?
No, because the one I read the one from Mike this year, but it was actually from December.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thus my confusion.
I don't look very often because
that makes sense.
No reviews.
Thus my confusion.
Yes.
Okay.
And tell your friends, and consider finding ways to interact with us because it's a lot of fun and we appreciate it.
Buy me some curtains, for example.
Yes, buy Justin curtains.
He promises to light them on fire.
I promise. I will do so. We have a fire pit. It's great.
And you can find us individually on the Twitter. Angelo.
I am at a roguish ham.
Justin.
I am at Tyrone_Swift, or you can follow my other podcast at Clickbait Update.
Yes, and I'm not even going to ask you because I realize that now you've started recording that after you record this. So
we have no idea what we're going to do ever.
Yeah. Just go listen to Clickbait Update. It's a lot of fun. And you can find me at Julian_Titus. Once again, you can find the show at NWPcast. Our theme song, Relax, and interstitial music, To the Max and Moody Grooves, come to us from Megan McDuffie. Just go search her online by Megan McDuffie. Also, I just saw that they announced that there's a new River City Girls game coming out. I don't know if she's doing the music, but she should be. And if she is, that's going to be really cool.
Yep.
So
if she isn't,
go give her some support.
I will be very disappointed. But
yeah. If she isn't, then go voice your displeasure to Way Forward and see if she can at least get a track on that
seriously.
soundtrack. Right? All right, but that is going to do it for this episode of Nerds Without Pants. So for myself, Justin, special thanks to Angelo. Also, a special thanks to Patrick, who was going to be here but had some personal stuff happen and couldn't be here. Maybe we'll try to get everybody, including Rob, for our 10th anniversary. Thanks for listening. Keep it pantsless, internet, and wash your goddamn hands. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey folks, it's me again. Just coming at you after finishing editing this show, because July will always be like the worst month of the year for me. Even though there are some really great things that have happened in this time or during this month, like adopting my cat Caprica, and also obviously the show beginning. But it's been a really fucking hard year, and this is a really fucking hard month. And I thought I would leave you all with a little bit of a shot in the arm. This is a song that comes from a band called Gunship that I kind of found last year, and I've really loved all of their music. And this is from their album Dark All Day, and it's called When You Grow Up, Your Heart Dies. It's a song that deeply affects me, and it really hits me pretty deep, and it kind of gives me a shot in the arm when I need it. And I just tend to re-listen to it when I start to get that last dance look in my eyes, like the lyrics say. Been listening to it a lot lately, so hope you guys enjoy this, and hang in there. We're halfway through this year. I mean, I don't know if things are going to be any better next year, but I mean, we're halfway through it, so there is that. Take care, guys. Bye.
When you grow up, your heart dies. Whatever will be, will be. Don't care what anyone else thinks.
You'll be okay. I promise. Just keep on keeping on.
It's just a bad day, not a bad life. I'll always be there for you.
I still have breath in my lungs. You'll feel it when you know. Life is worth the risk. Live long and prosper. Believe in yourself and create your own destiny. Don't fear failure.
Keep running on, just hold on, just fight on till the sun goes down. Just remember when you grow up, your heart dies.
Don't ever give up. Everything worth doing is hard.
The only time that matters is right now. It's okay to feel lost. Live life to the full, because you never know what's around the corner. So let's take a part of the world and make it our own.
Don't let the bastards grind you down.
You fear me.
Keep running on, just hold on, just fight on till the sun goes down. Just remember when you grow up, your heart dies. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. We always have each other.
Keep your head up, kid.